Me? Hell yeah.
Yeah, do it,
Yo,
bro.
yo, welcome. Episode 8. 7? 8. Of
7. It's titled as 7.
episode 7 of the Aeflic Shoctor podcast. And today we have the one, the only James from BHOT. Round of
Hello.
applause for James. Thank you so much
Wow,
for
dude,
coming
huge,
on.
huge pog. Very cool. Yeah, clapping for himself, bro.
How are you doing?
Jeez.
How are you doing?
It's like
today,
liking your
James?
own Facebook post, dude. It's strange.
No, I'm doing really well. I'm really excited to talk about some Planetside and some other stuff.
Yeah,
It's sort of like what I focus my day around is this.
actually, 100%. I think I'd say that you're probably one of the most active players and streamers when it comes to Planetside, and especially in our own like niche sub community of Planetside. When it comes to the Twitch side of Planetside, you're one of the more active people, and I
At
think
the moment, definitely.
yeah, of 100%. But we were talking about backgrounds, and we've been talking about this for a while. How Aeflic thinks his background's a little messy. You know, it's or not messy, but a little dead. There's not a lot of stuff going on back there. And then he says that mine is popping off. What are your thoughts on backgrounds as somebody that's just started using a webcam on their stream?
Um, I don't know. It depends if you want like people to look at your cool shit in your room, or if you just want them to focus on you. Because it's like in my old room, I used to have like 6 shelves filled with alcohol because I was a bartender. So I used to take like a load of booze, and then I was like, I kind of don't want to like push that message of you should be drinking this much. So now I kind of like prefer, a little bit more calm. Like I can't be bothered to decorate my room,
True.
but it's up to the person, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
for sure, for
like,
sure.
where do you see what's the plan now? It's been weeks. We've been talking about this, I think, since the very first podcast episode. What is the plan for the room?
It's like our Aeflic Shoctor podcast, right? It's a filler. I told you, I've said it many times. I understand you don't watch my stream. It's not a big deal.
All
but
right, guys, thanks for coming by, James. You've been a great guest.
No, but this is the last room that's going to get decorated, essentially. It's going to be anything done to it. Green screen out of the question. 3D printed anchor behind me, which is not even cool anymore. So if I had that, it wouldn't be cool because I'm using the saw now. But that's like too, like, you know what I mean? Like, people are going to come into the room and be like, it's like, oh. So we don't know. I don't know yet. I would like to do something, but I'm just not that creative. You know what I mean? So I don't know what it's going to be. But this is the last room that's going to get something done to it, and I'm sure it will turn into a kid's room at some point, and I'll be moved. I'll be shipped off. My office will be shipped out overseas, probably somewhere, because it's cheaper there, and that's where my office will be. But I do want to say, this is probably the first time some people that know you and have heard you, like in TeamSpeaks or just in general, probably TeamSpeak or Discord, have probably actually seen your face. This is a big momentous moment for James.
Yeah,
Very
maybe
cool.
actually.
You like
'Cause
the
I've
dude in
been-
what's that show called where he always hides his nose or something? Tim the Toolman or something like that. The old boomer. I know.
Oh, nah. I don't know
But
what.
the dude, he's always on the fence. He's always, oh, you don't even know what I'm talking about? Really? We're like the same?
No.
Okay, whatever. Let it go. Never mind. Just let it go. Move on.
All right. Well, yeah, I definitely want to learn a little bit more about James as a person. We kind of know James as the player, but
True.
so like just I guess tell us a little bit about yourself, James. Like, a lot of people know like I'm working and I make music. A lot of people know Aeflic's a father, just moved into a new
Hell yeah.
home, also working. What sort of stuff are you willing to share first, and then we'll kind of dive a little deeper about who James is as a player.
So I am 21. I look young for my age. I'm be real. I have just finished my university degree in television production, so that's working on all practical sides of television. And at the moment, there is no jobs, so I'm kind of rolling through doing nothing. That's kind of jobless at the moment.
I'm
Just
surprised to hear you
rough
see
life.
that though, because the way you stream on Twitch, and I've been asking for this, and I'm sure other people in chat are also asking for this. We need that sub button. We need James emotes. We need James content. But I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's fine. I will maybe eventually get my sub button set up. It's just a case of like, at the moment, I don't think I can guarantee I stream like every day, and I don't want to like allow people to sub if there's a chance that I just go AWOL for a month. Like unless I could commit to streaming, I don't think it's right for me at least to like take money from people just because I stream so infrequently. Like I took like a year break, didn't stream, and then after Pillai, I kind of just took a month break, didn't stream. So I think unless I could like build it up to the point where I was streaming nearly daily, or at least on a schedule, I just couldn't put a sub button on it. I don't think.
Ooh,
Okay.
man. I'm torn on that one, man. Because it's always a choice for people to do it, right? And it's always a meme like, "Hey, why don't you sub to me?" Or, "Oh, well, you don't have an anchor buy." You know what I mean? It's for
Yeah.
anyone's, and it's not expensive. It's just not. It's just not. You are providing content whether or not you do it for the entire month or something like that. But most of the time, people are like, "I like what you're doing right now," or "I've watched you
Yeah.
for 6 months," and even I know your schedule isn't even a schedule, right? I don't have one. And it's just more about like giving back to you because they enjoy what you're doing. It's not something where they're just like winging it, if that makes sense. But I understand. I respect you for
Yeah.
doing that because I was kind of in the same boat. And on the flip side, I feel like because of that, I have to give more. And
Yeah.
that's always been a conflict in my life. Like you don't need to do that much. Chill. Like you know what I mean. You don't need to do 2 streams a day, morning, night. You know what I mean. Like it gets a bit crazy. So that's something that I try to balance because I'm an extremist and like it's hard. So I completely understand where you're coming from. That's an interesting take though. Shoctor?
Yeah, definitely. I think I also had that similar of a mindset where, and it's weird saying this is like literally just yesterday we did like the me shaving my head stream because we hit a certain amount of subs, but I was also in a similar mindset of I didn't want to take people's money. I didn't want to charge people for my content, but I think the argument almost shifts a little once you start to provide more content, that you're not necessarily charging people for your content, but you're giving them easy outlets to support you because they enjoy watching your content. Because at the end of the day, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. There's very little locked behind a subscription,
Mm-hmm.
especially at like a low level, right? Like, some people don't even have emails, right? So like, there's
Yeah.
not like, oh, I don't know everything, so let me pay him money. Let me pay him $30 right now. It's like, oh, there's nothing else there. Like I got baited. It's just like, hey man, if you want to do it and you like what you see here, then I like that exchange. I think it's a nice exchange.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And there are literally no barriers to entry for like a stream like mine or Aeflix or yours. You click it, you don't need an ad blocker to like avoid the ads. Like we just don't run ads on our streams. We don't run ad breaks or something like that. We don't do subscriber giveaways or something like that. Like we're literally just kind of playing. So people who want to subscribe or gift subs, and I've noticed this is almost like the Twitch meta now, where people aren't necessarily asking for people to tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 sub, or even their prime sub at this point. It's like, where are the gifters at? Any gifters, Wide Hardo? It's like that meme now, both from the chat and from the streamer. Because they realize that, and especially the larger end streamers, they're usually doing like Twitch bounties where they're playing certain games as sponsorships to get money, or they have sponsorships. So it doesn't really matter anymore if somebody gives $5 and I get the $2.50, and it's more of just like a, hey, I really like your content and I want to be a supporter. I want to be able to showcase how long I've supported you, because I think the biggest allure to being a subscriber somewhere is I have my sub badge is a founder badge, or I've been subbed for 12 months, 13 months. I think Aeflic has one person who's been 13 or 14 months.
No, I got multiple. Okay, relax, dog.
No, I think
I got
no.
7. I got an 18, a 17, a 16.
Oh, really? Or was it 18?
Yeah.
I think isn't Skimp your longest subscriber?
Skimp and then Coach, I think 18 and 17.
Yeah, so it's like those are like, it's almost like a flexing thing where it's like I'm an OG
True.
member. So yeah, I wouldn't see it as you charging for content at all. I think at the end of the day, you're one of those personalities, and Richard says it really, really well. You're a pillar of the Planetside community, and with that in mind, it's like we want to have like some sort of outlet to support you.
But that's like kind of true though. I mean, it might seem like a meme, but in a way that you do provide, and you provide like a more unique niche because you are a good infantry player, but you're not like toxic. You're even like way less than me, which is impressive.
Yeah, it's actually crazy.
Hasn't always been that way. Don't
I
like.
feel that.
Well, that's
like
actually,
definitely had my moments.
that's actually a really good segue to what I want to talk to you, or what we want to talk to you next about. Is so Aeflic and I on our very first podcast, we talked about how we started in Planetside, the different gateways that we went through when it came to personality shifts of like, oh, Zerg fit to elite fit to just like casual. So like, give us your Planetside story from like where you started to like where you are now, and then why you still stayed.
So I started Planetside because I got a gaming computer when I was, I think, 12, 13. How was the game? 8 years?
Yeah.
So
Probably going about
13.
9.
So yeah, I got a gaming computer, and I was like, what games couldn't I get on console? And then I saw Planetside was free, so I was like, that's a double win. I don't have to pay for it. I don't have a job. Um, and then I sort of like started watching a bit of YouTube of Planetside, and I saw a trailer for the 666 Devil Dogs on Connery. Now my young ass didn't know what like ping was, so I was like, bro, they look cool. I'm going there. So I moved my characters were all on Connery. They were awfully named as like a 12-year-old, and I played with Devil Dogs for a little bit, and then I sort of like ditched the game for a couple of years because at that point, it wasn't really gelling with me. I was kind of trying to play like a load more competitive games, CS and stuff. And I came back in about 2016, I want to say. I came back in 2016. Um, I played vehicles for a little while, and then I started realizing, actually, I think infantry is where I want to put my time and effort. So I played mostly solo or with IRL friends. I never really did outfits much. And then I think I in late 2016, I was like, I kind of want to find like a group of people to play with that are more consistently like playing this game compared to my IRL friends. Um, so I actually applied for Hydra first. But they said there's a 2-week like vetting period, basically, like a sort of like a 2-week to check your chill. And I looked at that and I was like, they might be too uptight for me. Turns out in like hindsight, they were like such a chill group of people, and Hydra would have been a good place. But it's like I just saw that at face value, and I was like, oh, I kind of don't want to be like judged for 2 weeks if I'm gonna be like good. So I ended up just going to Miller, and then when I moved to Miller, it was a case of like I looked at the kills leaderboards, and I think I actually applied to Y-Bus first because Mentis was at the top, and I was like, oh, bro, he kills loads of people. He's probably playing the game a load. So I chilled with Y-Bus for a little bit, and then I realized they're mostly just vehicles. Um, and then I actually, Boone, who is the leader of BHOT, was just running around in front of me, and I realized he was like slapping fools, like left and right. And so I just sent him a message like, "Hey, can I play with you? Like, can I chill with you?" I didn't realize at the time, like this was prime BHOT when they were like hoovering up all the good players on Miller and like Cobalt, and they'd stolen some from like Emerald and stuff. Like they were hoovering up a load of good players. So I like chilled with them, and then realized they were running a 6v6 tournament in Eurodome at that time in 2017. So they were like, "Hey, do you want to play? We know you don't know what Jaeger is, but do you want to come along?" So I played Jaeger in 2017 with BHOT. So we did Eurodome and Esamir. And then actually I stopped for 2 years, just due to like trying to finish up what we call sixth form, which is kind of like college, to then go on to uni. I just wanted to make sure my grades are in check. Um, and then I came back in about 2019, played mostly solo, and then we're here in 2020, and we're running like the Pill team, playing a lot of live and streaming, which is basically all of it, I guess.
Nice.
I love it, dude. I love it. You know what's funny, man? Like, not knowing any of that prior, I was like actually like interested, and then it's just I don't know. It's kind of a cool thing to do. I like that we. I mean, that's kind of a given that we would do that, but like that's awesome. A couple things though, man. I forgot that you're in BHOT. I like sometimes I forget that BHOT from Pill right now is BHOT because it was different back in Eurodome or Eurodome. I didn't know that you were playing with him back then. Do you have long hair?
I do. It's really long at the moment.
I thought, God, I'm jealous, man. Okay.
Yeah, it's all down there.
But I mean, it's a parallel story to I think a lot of, and this is what we talked about in a previous podcast that people forget about. It's like, I know, like today in my chat, someone's like, "Hey, you don't understand. Not everyone's a slay god is what they call it. As cringe as that sounds. Nice guy, of course, but it's a meme, right? But the thing is, like, you guys do understand where I came from, right? And how many years of that transition it took to even get to midfit, let alone to where I am now. Like I've gone through that. I understand what you're going through and what you're thinking. I've been there. So it's nice to again bring somebody in like you and like share that with other people, so they understand that like we didn't just spring up here. You know?
No.
Yeah, started from the bottom essentially, and it was to me at least. I'm assuming it sounds like maybe, but like it was a lot of fun to progress through that.
Oh yeah, I loved it. That's what drove me to play. It was like for me, improving as a player is the biggest win in like Planetside for me. It's just like every day I log in, if I'm better than the day I was before, that's what I'm playing for. You know, that's what drives me to play games that are PvP based at least. You know, it's just improving.
It's funny because I actually watched your stream and like you're at the tech plant, which obviously I love, and you were doing like towards like the west side with Jen. You're doing a jump over that I've never even seen before, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize you could jump up and get on top of that building right there. And I was like, that's dope. Like I still don't even know what I'm doing apparently. So, you know what I'm saying? But it's like nice. Like
Yeah,
isn't like
yeah.
oh I'm
You
gonna go
always
to your
catch little
stream.
things.
Yeah, it's not gonna be the
Yeah.
same thing. It
No.
was pretty cool, man. So props, Shoctor.
Yeah, man. So I think I always love hearing those stories of like because it's not like your traditional game where it's like, oh well, you know, the game was hyped up, I pre-ordered it, went to the store, picked up my copy, and I started playing. Like the entry for people is so different just because of it being like a free to play game.
Yeah.
And hearing what kind of got someone, like how the game got someone's attention, and then like how they got to where they are now is always a really fun story. But I'd love to hear now what's like keeping you around. There's a lot of people who've quit. I think
Yeah.
hundreds of people that maybe you've met over the past since you had installed the game no longer play it. So I guess what kind of differentiated the game and kept you to keep playing like you are right now?
So I switch games a lot at first, and Planetside I feel like of the games I play is one of the easier ones to slot back into and start like trying to improve again pretty quickly. And I feel like the skill ceiling in Planetside, it sounds weird, but the skill ceiling in Planetside is a lot higher, I feel, than games like Battlefield. Like, if you wanted to stay outside of like competitive games like your Rainbow Sixes, your CSs, and then you want to go more in like the pub stompy games, so Planetside, your Battlefield, your CODs, I feel like the skill ceiling in Planetside, I don't feel like I'm close to what you could get to. Whereas in Battlefield or Call of Duty, it didn't feel like you had to put that much time or effort to get to the point where most lobbies are just over, you know, and you're winning everything. So that's always what drove me back to Planetside was just that, hey, I'm not there yet, so I want to keep going. That's what I would say is probably keeping me around. It's just like improving. Playing Pill now is really enjoyable, you know, like scrimming. The streaming is definitely what's keeping me around as well. It makes a massive difference, like compared to playing, you know, on my own. Like say playing without a stream. It's massively easier to just sit and chill for hours playing the game.
Agreed. Yeah, I think, and this may be something that we all three can relate on is, you know, streaming the game and engaging with like chat and feeling like you're almost contributing to the community by giving your inputs when it comes to the game itself out to a group of people almost brings more meaningfulness to playing the game. Because I'll admit, for me, like it's difficult for me to find a reason to play the game outside of like streaming it while I play it. Like I don't often play the game off stream like I would with like other games, just because I feel like everything that I play, I want to showcase to other people. Whether it's me playing poorly, me playing really well, because there's so many bugs in the game, you can almost use you playing the game as feedback to the developers as well, of like, look at this random bug that just happened here, or look at this crazy thing that just happened. And Planetside is one of those games where not only is it maybe a buggy mess that some people would like to call it, but then it's also one of those things where insane things can happen. And like you can have like a really good session that you want people to see, or you want to document it somehow, and streaming it's the easiest way to do that. And I think Aeflic, you could probably build on that too, because I don't think at this point, like if you're playing, you're streaming. Like I've always noticed that about you.
Yeah, there's like one time I wasn't, but like at the like it's almost because again going back to me being an extremist, like I feel like if I'm streaming it like now like with watching Liam and stuff, and like if he's taking a nap, like it might be 45 minutes, usually it's an hour or two, but I've always before that was like a 2 hour minimum because I wanted to make sure the content and the build up, because it takes a while to build up your viewership and sustainability, like was worth it essentially for people viewing and for me playing and for me streaming. But yeah, I mean, I'm always streaming if I'm playing plans. I don't necessarily like streaming other games and whatever. Everyone's like, oh, you're garbage at other games, or you know, it's not that hard to do. But sometimes it's just nice to chill and like not watch what I'm saying, not that I'm saying anything crazy, or like. Again, I put probably too much effort into it for what it is, but I like to have some separation there and just kind of like chill and do my own thing, especially when I'm getting tired. But point from what James was saying though, man, and then sometimes I feel like I get caught up in like the whole negativity, and that's just Twitch chat in general. Doesn't matter if you're 40,000 or if you're four viewers, you're gonna have that. And sometimes it feels like, man, like oh, you play Planetside, like maybe you should try something else. Like that's way harder, or like more difficult. But like when you put it in the genre of like Call of Duty or Battlefield 4, I that presence of the skill ceiling. You're right. Like I didn't even think about it. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously I could be way better, but like you put it in a good atmosphere of that skill gap. Even though we like to complain about that skill gap has been increasing. There's bastions and orbital strikes and tanks and whatnot, but like it's still fun to even play around those things and still get better and still like show out and like do things, or sometimes even play with other people. But sometimes I lose that. It's like, why am I even still playing? This is 8 years old. Like everyone shits on it. No one's playing. It's always a dead game. Like, but it's like, no, like it is easy to come like pick back up and like slide in and like, look, okay, let's try to get better again. Like, why did I put it down in the first place?
Yeah.
And like it almost feels like there's more to it, and which is in a way why it's ruined other games for me. Like a couple weeks ago, everyone was playing Battlefield 4. Was it Shoctor?
Yeah, it was Battlefield 4.
Dies off so quick. Like there's just no sustain. It feels like in some games sometimes. Like I had a lot of fun with Tarkov, but that's just a wildly different game. The genre is different. But when you compare it to the other ones, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm making sense right now, but
No,
I liked what he said.
I think to build off of what you're I think you're saying at least, is this game honestly ruins other games for you. Because once you have an experience like this, and especially when everybody has like a golden age that they can think of when they played the game. And for most people, the golden age is not right now. Like it's always like a retrospective. I remember alert meta. I remember etc. Farmers League. I remember, it doesn't matter. There's like all these different areas of time that people will see that is like the best time ever. Whether it was Service Mash, alert meta, Farmers League, etc. So once you go to right now, you want to find a new game because you kind of feel burnt down on Planetside. You want this. You almost want something that gives you that feeling of a sustained gameplay experience where you're not just playing like for 2 hours or 3 hours and then you're done for the week, or it's like, oh, I just have to do my daily, weekly objectives like in a Destiny type of game, and then I'll just wait till next week to play again. Like you want something where Planetside is like, I played it every single day, 40 hours a week, like it was a second job. And once you go in with that expectation looking for that game, not a lot of games have that. What's up, man? You good?
So I've been doing on Steam, bro. I just be scrolling.
Thousands
Thousands of games.
You gotta click that unlock button on it and just really swipe, because that's what you gotta do. Yeah, that's what my work mouse is. This mouse right here. When you just like flick it really hard, it'll just go forever, dude. It's funny.
Fair.
So yeah, I think it's hard because you want something that gives you that feeling that you got from Planetside, where and you were talking about this in the first episode of the podcast too, Aeflic, where VCO is defending a biolab, and it's like, how long are we gonna be defending this until we get reinforcements so I can log off? And it's like, when's the next guy gonna come in? It's like first in, first out type of thing. So
like, dude, Goon held that biolab for 48 hours. Well, it's like, we just don't have that like mindset anymore. And the game's progress and change, obviously. But you're right, we don't get that anymore. But again, the game's different. And in some ways, though, this is so cringy to say, but maybe it's because, it is because of streaming, a lot of it. But this is like its own like golden era of I'm enjoying it more now with streaming than I probably have, and I couldn't tell you how many years. Alert meta, Service Mash was just so few and far between though. Like that was a golden thing, but like that's something you could bring back easily right now and it'd still be hot. Like I would enjoy just to do my thing on it. But so I mean, really, besides alert meta and outfits still being alive at that point, this is like a golden age for me just because of the stream and like interacting with the community, and like I'm not toxic. Like I mean, like some of it I play into, I lean into a little bit on the stream, but most of the time, like I'm having fun. Like regardless of I'm sub 2 KD, I'm above 5. Like I'm just enjoying it. Like it's like a weird, because I feel like I was like peak Planetside was like here, and then I just took this like stats are everything that matter, and like you're not mean this, you're out of the outfit. Like he's a cool dude. What am I doing? And then like we got rid of stats. We don't really care about them. Like yeah, I have to get in, you have to have stats, but no one really cares. And now like I feel like I'm almost back on a completely different mindset, but in the same game. Like I don't know, I'm really enjoying where I'm at with it right now.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest regrets when it comes to when I played in my golden age of that 2014, 2015 is I didn't document like any of the stuff that I did, which sucks. Like I hate the fact that there were so many memories that I have playing back then that I don't have like any sort of documentation of, whether it's like a video or of like a VOD from a stream, a clip, like nothing is left over. So one of my I guess my biggest regret, and you know, people ask me this, they're like I don't remember you streaming back when I knew of you. And I was like, well, yeah, I didn't. My computer sucked back then. It wasn't until I built this one that I could stream like reliably. And I think that's essentially like what got me into streaming. Just the fact that I could make, there were so many things that were memorable, whether it was like capping a base, doing something funny, having a crazy session. That's kind of what got me into it. And I don't know if we've kind of touched on this, but like James, what brought you into streaming that like got you to download OBS or whatever you use, and you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna stream like what I do.
I don't know actually. At first, there was a lot of like just people I was close with, like, hey, you should probably stream. You know, my my parents always wanted me to stream games, because they're like, they were always very supportive, and they're like, hey, you're pretty good at the games you play. You know, my dad knows a little bit about gaming. He's played a couple. And he's like, hey, you're really good. You should probably stream, you know, like, or just see if it's something that you want to do. And then I think I first streamed, I'm going to guess I streamed Apex, actually. I think I streamed Apex when I was grinding that at first. Just because I was pretty, like, high-tier Apex player when it released. You know, there was a couple of us looking for professional orgs to pick up players. So it was one of those, like, if there's any time to stream, like, it's a massive game release like Apex. Apex was huge when it released. Obviously, everyone's trying to, like, in the beginning of this brawl of, like, streamers is trying to find who the good players are. So I was like, that's probably the time when I tried to stream Apex and started streaming, just because I was like, you know, maybe it's that 1 in a million where, you know, suddenly a year later I've got 1,000 viewers every day. I couldn't commit to it for hell. Like, oh my god, I probably streamed like once a week for every other month. It was terrible. Basically, it wasn't going to happen with the attitude I went into it. And then, yeah, just when I came back to Planetside, I found streaming was a really fun way to play live, because I found I was slipping into a sinkhole on live of caring too much about my performance as a player, and I felt like streaming was a good way to distract from like that. So yeah, that's why I got into streaming.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, you touched on a lot of different things actually that I think we could go in on. I think like one, streaming almost gives you this sense of accountability, like and it's a mixture of accountability and fun. And actually, I have so many things I want to talk about because you actually brought up some really good points. But like the first thing that came to my mind, actually, not to just skip to like what you said at the end, like a lot of people who do go into streaming look at it like, oh, I want this to be my next job, or like, oh, I want to become famous, I need to have viewers, etc., etc. And those are often the people who fail because they're so focused on, like, whether it's begging for money. There are all those clips of like people saying like, oh, why you can't afford a $5 subscription, like what are you doing? Yeah, it's
literally me. I'm just kidding.
So there are all those, there's all those like examples of people who just like go into it for the wrong reasons. And you know, Twitch is a community with a lot of subcultures in it, but the overall culture of the platform is, you know, gamers wanting to watch other people play games and, you know, experience things together. One of my favorite memes is like the I was here meme, Pog U, when like somebody does something crazy and I was like, oh, I was here, like, oh crap, like we shared in that moment. So it's like having those genuine experiences and sharing them with viewers is like what makes people like excel at Twitch and have higher viewer counts and stuff. And then also what you talked about is the whole mentality of, dang, actually I think I lost it. There's so much, I'm overloaded. But the just like overall that whole mindset of trying to make money with it is it's so disingenuous that like viewers can instantly like see that you're trying to do that, and then boom, they don't want to watch you anymore. They click off of you so easy, and there is no buy-in to watching you, so the buyout is super simple. I click on you, I don't like you, I move to the next stream. It's within seconds.
Very true.
And I think that's something else that you could relate to as well, Aeflic, where you started streaming, like other people helped you start it, but the biggest thing that's sustaining it is the fact that people relate to you and like hanging out with you.
Yeah, like, and we talked about this one on the podcast. Like, I struggle with doing a lot of things because I don't like failing at it. And yeah, I don't have 1,000 viewers. You're right. Like, that's like, I think like if I like would literally just have one for like ever, like would have been like one viewer would have been like really hard for me like to have gone into it. And like that's something that scared me away from doing it, is like I don't like doing that. I mean, that's probably a normal thing for most people. Like, people get comfortable in a position at a job and they're like, well, I don't need to get promoted, I don't want to get re-interviewed, like, and you just tell yourself like, oh, like I'm fine here. It's like, no, like better yourself, challenge yourself, take that next step. And sometimes you need somebody else to do that for you. Like, Zoe's been always really good about pushing me to do more things in regards to like to work and things, and not to get comfortable and like stagnant, because that's where I'm comfortable at, and like I'm scared to like move on because I don't think that I'll get it or something. Someone has 15 years of experience and I only have 3, so like what's the point of even doing that? And it's like, no, it's an excuse, like push yourself. So yeah, some of our friends from like TeamSpeak, Quiet, etc., which he probably regrets it now. We're like, you should. And I was like, finally, I just dove in. But there are so many things to touch on in this, man. This is kind of funny. I'm like losing these things too. But like, have you ever gone through your analytics and been like, oh, 550 people, unique people pass through the stream? Like, sometimes you think I get caught up on like, okay, I'll see 44 average, like right now there's 44 people viewing. And then if you look at your analytics, sometimes like, oh, 550 people. It wasn't 44. It wasn't the same 44 people like view your stream or something.
No.
Like, that goes up and down, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's down to 40, like 4 people left. Like, no, probably in that time period, like 30 people just left and came in. Like, and it's kind of eye-opening to think that you have the chance to touch that many people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, so it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
And so like when I think about like Planetside, and this is I'm going down the rabbit hole, but I think like Planetside stream, like the dev stream, like they hit 3.8 peak, right? So I think that's thousands and thousands of people beyond that.
Yeah. That
saw it. Like, not 3,800 people were like, oh, like, no, it's over probably 10,000, probably way over that, which is kind of crazy to think about. And another point I want to touch on what you're talking about, like, you're like, oh, maybe it's that one chance I hit 1,000 viewers and like I kind of blow up on Twitch. It's kind of like always in the back of my head, but it's also like you gotta be realistic and like you have to balance it, because like you said, people. I mean, some 1G. Everyone knows who that is, but like when he stopped having fun, it's when his stream sucked the most. And then when he moved to Sea of Thieves or whatever random game he was, and then he started to really enjoy it, he like blew up. If people can feel like, that's what people want. They want to see your energy. They want to interact with you. And some of that's like kind of weird and it's kind of a new thing. Or we don't compare it to like watching a TV show and like idling a music star or an actor, but it's very different than that, but it's also very similar. It's just new, even though it's not new, but it's still new for a lot of people. It just comes down to balance and like understanding like it's Planetside. Like, we can't have 10,000 viewers. You just can't. You know what I mean? And so it's taking what you have from the community and just enjoying it, having fun with it, and running with it. Whatever happens. And if Planetside dies, you move to something else, and your stream dies, it dies. Or if it picks back up and it blows up, and it blows up. And it's about having fun and getting the most out of it for both sides, so to speak. Yeah, I don't know if that.
No, 100%.
Yeah, touched on everything.
Oh,
yeah, I think also something that you talked on, and what's kind of made me more motivated to want to stream more and deliver content, because I was always, when I was in 5th grade, we had like class superlatives before we moved on to like middle school, and I was voted as class clown. And even in middle school and high school, I was always just looking for ways to make something funny out of a situation that just was generally lethargic. It's like, oh, you're sitting in AP American history, or you're sitting in a trigonometry class and somebody says something. It's like, oh, I'll say something to like get a laugh, and then sure, I'll get lunch detention later, but like still I made you guys laugh, so GG. Like, that's all I cared about. Like, I would risk 30 minutes of me being alone having to sit by myself at lunch to get one chuckle in class. So I looked at my analytics. That's what got me kind of wanting to stream more and become more fun, because I looked at my analytics and I was like, I was doing pretty well when I first started streaming when I came back. But then I started being more, I think, lethargic and seeing it like really apathetically, in the sense of like, oh, like I'll just stream whenever I want. Like, oh, it doesn't matter if I'm funny. Like, people will watch me because they like me. I don't need to be funny. I don't need to have good gameplay. I don't need. So it's like, okay, I'm not. If I'm not very good at the game, like where I'm like an insane god at the game, because I would say like of us three, like I'm the worst gameplay wise. And then if I'm not trying to be funny or saying anything insightful, I'm just gonna be a one viewer Andy until I decide that I'm done streaming. So I've been kind of focusing more on, you know, improving my gameplay obviously, but making sure I'm delivering some sort of content. Because something else to discuss that I think is super important and I think is helpful in making all three of our streams grow when it comes to just, you know, having more people to enjoy those moments with us is a lot of times people that visit a new channel, if they see the chat is dead, they'll just leave because it's like, what do you want me to do? Especially when you have follow notifications on. Because I have had situations where, you know, it's late, I just finished streaming, and as soon as I'm done streaming, it'll usually be like 1 in the morning in my time, and I'll do like my 1 hour of lurking. Like I'll see like, oh, the other Planetside streams, then I'll go find like some other streams that I think are funny. Maybe I'll watch like a big streamer, like an XQC or something like that. But I'll go to like a smaller channel and I'll be like, oh, this is pretty cool. They're playing Planetside. It looks like they're pretty good at the game. I'm gonna follow. And it's like you hit follow. And it's like, boosh, Shoctor has followed the channel. Holy shit. And then the dude's like, Shoctor, thanks for the follow, bro. How you doing tonight? I'm like, bro, I was just lurking. What the fuck? So it's hard to be like, I don't want to do that. It's like, I don't want to get like completely like knocked out. And it happened to Rel too, where, because I have my follower notifications on, but I'll just be like, hey man, thanks for the follow. And then I'll keep playing. Like, I don't make it like a super big thing.
That's a good point. I want to talk about that, but go ahead.
Yeah, Rel followed my channel last week, and it said like, you know, it just went like, my notifications are like, wow, and it's like my pog emote that I have in my chat, and it just said like, Rel has followed the channel, and then like, I think it was like interlude, ground game, a bunch of them were like, Rel, what? Rel followed the channel? And it's like, it was so like, and he just was like, oh man, I was just lurking, what, I gotta get called out like that? So it's so hard when you're like that one viewer Andy, because you want to have like a lot of people watching you. You want to have that vocal chat, even if you don't have a sub button, kind of like James. Like at the end of the day, you want to be able to share those moments with other people. Otherwise, why am I streaming? I'm getting less frames. I'm trying to be funny, but no one's watching. It's hard. So it's definitely like, it's like a battleground almost in that beginning phase. And I'm very thankful that the Planetside community, and Ground Game said it pretty well, that the Planetside community has a really loyal core viewer base that'll just jump from stream to stream and isn't like, oh, I am only an Aeflic watcher. I am only I don't know, like a Ceph watcher. Like, people are really willing to just bounce around. They'll multi-box the streams and they'll watch Aeflic on one monitor, Shoctor on the other, because we're talking to each other.
They wouldn't do that to me.
But it's like, it makes it so that, okay, at least I'm not a one viewer Andy. I'm watching and I'm having a good time with other people. But you said you want to say something? I'm sorry, Aeflic, go ahead.
I was just thinking about today, like when somebody subs or even follows it, like I sometimes I feel like I don't know how to embrace it. Like sometimes I feel like I almost wash over it, like kind of like passively. So sometimes I'll just come back and be like, oh, for real, like that really means a lot to me. But I'm like, because like, okay, the sub is actual money, and then the follows are important too. Like, people don't think understand how important it is to follow, and I didn't understand until I started streaming. Even like the one viewer, like, you just lurking, you don't even have to say anything in chat. Like, obviously chat has to pop, it has to. But even you lurking, like, everyone has like a role to play, so to speak, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of a weird thing, but like, that's why I started like thanking everybody. I'm like, even you lurkers in the back, thank you so much. Because they add to it in their own way. You don't have to be a subscriber to give the stream something. And like, everyone has a small part to play, and as you move up and like maybe you interact with chat, or you say something every once in a while, or you start asking a question, because that starts me in a discussion, like that's even more than just like putting like pogs in the chat or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very interesting dynamic. But my thing is, like, sometimes I feel like I get a follower or sub, I'm just like thank you for the sub, and it's like, are they on the other side like, what's that, like the XQC one where the little frog,
the
little pog
Peepo frog,
like,
where he's like
and he's
typing in chat, I just wanted to make you laugh. And he's like, you were banned from the chat, and he's like crying.
It's like, and like, I see people like, I'm gonna sub Dave, like he's gonna fucking go off, and it's like, thank you for this. It's like, oh, it's like, so I don't know if I'm doing too much, but then I don't want to do what you said. Where it's like, like, you know,
like, holy shit! But it's not just like your excitement, because I think having excitement on one side is good. Like, that's why I don't want to name drop anybody, so I'll just be like, hey man, thanks for the follow, I appreciate it. But if it's a sub, I'll be like, holy shit, like, yo, Ground Game, thanks for the sub. Anchors, thanks for the 6 months. Like, that shows that, like, you know, we're progressing in like this relationship as a viewer and a streamer. But I think my thing that I've noticed the most is it's like the animations on like the screen where it's like boosh, Shoctor followed the channel, and it covers like all the gameplay and stuff, and you're just like, dang bro, I didn't want to get noticed, dude. So it's funny to kind of see that. And overall that's just, I think, one of those things that Planetside really does help out when you're trying to get either like a channel off the ground, or if you just want to be able to hang out with people. And Enzak actually, like, Enzak is a great example of this. Like, he just hosted the stream with 20 viewers, and once again, thanks you for that, Enzak, really appreciate it. But he says, like, I feel like streaming gets easier once chat kind of takes over and you get a conversation going, because
100%,
because you kind of go from narrating like what you're doing to constantly speaking about something and having like some sort of new topics. And once like somebody comes in the chat, there's always that one new frog that comes into the chat, and they're like, hey, can I see what class you're running? Like, oh, I'm new to the game. And like, it's not as frequent, but like, I've seen it happen to Aeflic, it's happened to me, it's probably happened to you too, James, where you're kind of sitting there, you're playing, and then someone's like, oh, can I see what class you're running? You're like, yep, when I die I'll show it to you. And then you show them everything, and it's like, oh, I'm using a gauze saw, I have nano weave, here are my implants, and they go, thanks man, and then they go boom, like they followed the channel. It's like I did something. I am giving back to the community. So it's like, it's a good feeling. And you know, the Planetside community, even if you don't have like 1,000 viewers or something like that, you can at least have fun with some people, and it's really cool. It's a really fun place to be on.
It's like its own kind of content. Like, I know that like I sacrifice my stats essentially in game to stream, because I'll just look at chat and I'll die. So I just talk about all the time, like, why am I doing that? Why am I shift Wing, and then I'm like looking at chat, and then some nice one drops on me, you know? But James, speak to this if you want to. I'm kind of curious your viewpoint on this interaction, or we can move on to a different topic. Up to you guys. I don't want to.
I mean,
no,
go ahead.
If you have
I mean, yeah, if there's time, no, I'm happy to.
Bro, we got time, my guy.
Oh, we talk until we're done.
No.
You're here like for a reason. Like, we want you
No,
to speak.
I love streaming because you get to speak to people. That's the best part of it by far. I don't have follower notifications turned on, just due to the fact that it was lagging my computer out at first.
Fine.
So it was one of those, like, I just turned everything off. At this point, I think it probably would be fine. I've actually got someone helping me set up like a full stream overlay.
Let's go, baby. Love it.
So yeah, I think it's fine if you lurk as well. Like, I'm gonna be real, I have ended my stream before when I had 60 people in chat because it was quiet for like 20 minutes. I was like humming to myself. It got to the point where like I was just talking to myself, and I was like, oh, probably someone else has started streaming, you know, all the viewers have just gone over there to chill. And I like ended the stream, and then I looked at my Twitch analytics. It's like, oh, you had 60 viewers when you ended it. No one was speaking.
I feel that.
And
though.
it was
It's
like,
weird-
shit, that's so unfortunate. Yeah, like I think lurking's fine. I really appreciate if you lurk. I appreciate if you come in and ask a question, that's ideal. If you can just get like, if you ask a question, those are the best people. Like Shoctor said, if you help someone, the feeling's amazing, you know. And if you see later that they followed the channel, that feels like one of the biggest wins in streaming for me. Is like, someone comes in, you answer their question, and then they liked you enough that they were like, actually, you know what, I'm gonna follow this guy. He might be able to help me in the future. That's what I always say. It's like, come back if you have more questions, you know, DM me if you want also answers, because it's like, streaming goes outside of like the actual live part as well. I feel like, for me at least, I want to try help people. You know, I've just become like an infantry mentor on the PS2 Discord, because it's like, I want to try help people like all the time if I can. You know, if they got questions, I'll try help. So yeah, those are like, yeah, I don't know. I really like people that come in and ask questions. Those are my favorite. But I really like everyone that sort of chills and just spams pog if something cool happens, or people that just lurk. You know, it's, viewers are cool, basically. Like,
Yeah,
I
I'd say
feel
what I think is the funniest thing too is, like, we say this as like streamers, but we also have, you know, we've been viewers, and for me, I think the viewing experience just definitely depends on your relationship with the streamer. Like if you're brand new to a stream, you're usually just gonna sit back because you don't know the person. Uh, or if you know the streamer well, but they're like a really big time streamer and the chat's going by like insanely fast, like you're not only watching the stream, then you're also just kind of watching the chat because it's funny. So for me at least, like I lurk all the time on other streams, but then if I'm watching either of your streams or I'm watching anyone that I know, like I'll talk in that stream because like it's it's not even me like asking a question, reacting or anything. Like I could have the stream muted. It's just one of those things like I know I'll be able to start a conversation because you guys know me. I'm either modded or subscribed to like one of these people. So they'll have a conversation with me. So maybe I'm entitled when I come to my viewing experience, but like I'll only really leave a chat message if I feel like the streamer will react to me or respond to me with like my whatever my question is or my comment is. And that's kind of the thing that you two do the best. And I do it too, but again, like I can't say what my viewing experience is because I'm always streaming it. I'm not like a VOD Andy that goes and watches my VODs later and goes, oh, I need to tweak my audio by like 1 decibel or something like that. It's like I stream and I'm done. I'll watch my clips if somebody took like a funny clip and they sent me a link to it. But other than that, I'm not gonna go review my entire VOD to say like, oh, this song got muted because of copyright, so I can't play that anymore. Like I don't care. So I don't know. It's definitely one of those things where at the end of the day, if you are having a good time streaming, like other people will see that and then they will have a good time watching, and then that's just something that stacks on itself. Like my stream 6 months ago is nowhere near as fun as it is now, and you guys could probably relate to that too.
Exactly.
Were you gonna say something or should I? Can I?
If you're whenever finish your thing. I got something after.
Oh, I was gonna go to the next topic if you wanna.
I'll be quick. I think it's not so much for James because James, you are so nice. You are Richard's brother. I'm pretty could be twin brother at this point because you guys are so nice. But I had this issue because I've talked about it on the podcast. Like I butted head with Lex, right, way back in the day because we backed out of the 66. And I remember like going to his channel and like I was like I wanted to say something. I was like, every time I've ever interacted with this guy, he's always like below like come at me crazy. I was like, he's just gonna say something crazy in chat about like, oh, Aeflic sucks, like he did this or that. So like I never said anything. And sometimes like I think about that interaction now for me, and because like I feel like Esamir on a better page or a good page. I mean, I actually like Lex, like after understanding who he is, like getting to that point of it. But sometimes I swear it happens every time. I will kill somebody in game, or they'll kill me, like they'll cheese me somehow, and I'll be like, dude, I'll just like go off. I'll be like a little toxic, and they'll say something in chat like, oh man, I'm just trying to rax the shotgun. Like I promise, like I won't pick it up again. Like don't ban me. Like, and I'm like, dude, I had no like, and like that's the first time I've ever said something. And I'm like an idiot. Like I potentially could have lost a viewer, right? Like not that it's like it is a big deal because we only have so many viewers. So I'm like, so the same mentality of like, oh, he's a really good infantry player, and I know how he feels about maxes, so I don't want to be here. I'm just gonna lurk. But my thing is like, it's okay to. I've gone through that phase. I've been there. It's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to bring up a discussion about tanks or whatnot because I've been there. Like I've never ran that, but I've been in a Zergfin and whatnot. So like I want to encourage that more. And again, I don't think you have that issue because of your personality, but for some like other people, not even necessarily Shoctor, but just streamers in general, mostly me, but being like too harsh on people like just turns people away. And I feel like you can. What are you laughing so hard, bro?
Bro, they keep redeeming the channel reward, bro. This goes on YouTube. I literally can't. I'm sorry.
We can't. But you just have to make up for it tomorrow. But my point stands, and we'll drop it there. We can move on to the next topic. But I don't know. It's just something that made me think about. There's so many lurkers that you gotta be careful because they don't know. They assume that you don't like them. Essentially, what I'm trying to say. And like I've been trying to reiterate, no, like I like everyone. Like for the most part, unless you're trying to be a dick. So, I don't know where I'm going with that. You're laughing. I was like nervous. I was like, oh my gosh.
Sorry, I literally interlude redeemed it like
transition.
He redeemed it like 10 times. I couldn't hold it in, bro. So I agree though. Like lurkers, keep watching. Don't feel like you're what's the word? You're like you have to chat or something like that. But do know when subs get gifted. Since I've been gifted so many subs this past like 2 weeks because people wanted to see me shave my head. I've seen so many names that I've literally never seen in chat before. and they'll just be like, "Dang, I just got called out because I can see where I can see where
It's
they are
so
now."
funny when that happens. They get exposed. It's like, bro, I don't know. I'm like,
It's like,
you could have picked.
who's
You could
Carlton
pick.
1735? Like I've never seen you
It's like you
talk
could have
before.
picked anyone that's been in the chat for like 8 months that just didn't have the money to subscribe, and you could have given them one. But you gave it to Carlton 17, and then Carlton gets out of there, bro. Never comes back, bro. He's like, oh, it's just funny though.
All right,
All
well,
right, bro, take it away.
James, you are a technically gifted gamer, I will say. So, because I've talked to you before, you've played Apex at a higher level. You've been top 500 in Overwatch. You've been high ranked in CS:GO. These are all like huge games, lots of money, lots of sponsors, lots of viewers. One of those things where you could chisel your name into the annals of whatever the history is. But you kept playing. Or I mean, you've played them. You did what you did, but you've always seemed to come back to Planetside. What are the certain things? Because you've talked about why you've stayed in Planetside, but what kind of drove you away from those games that Planetside was the preferential sort of thing to go back to?
I would say slightly. My attention span for games isn't the greatest. I feel like I'll play a game for about 1,000 hours. Most games, it's about 1,000 hours, and about 1,000, I'll be kind of done with it. And, in those 1,000 hours, I'll probably hit like the top competitive rank. That's like if it has a competitive queue. I'll hit the top competitive rank, and then I sit there and I go, well, the only thing up from here is professional. Is being paid to play this game. And then I think to myself, could I play this game day in, day out for the next 3 years? And nearly every time it comes back, no, I don't want to do it. I don't, I already get annoyed at the game as it is at 1,000 hours. And if I have to hit 10,000 to get that to professional, it's one of those like, I don't know if I could do it. Whereas in Planetside, it's quite easy to come on and like bring up Fisu and go like, hey, I'm number one at the moment. Like I'm top kills, it's nice. It's almost like an ego stroke where it's like, hey, like it's easy to come on and be like, hey, bro, I'm farming. I'm the best on the server right now. I'd love to play a lot of those competitive games even higher. Like I'd love to play them, but it's just the grind of getting there, of going like, hey, this is all I can play. This is once you're committed, you're committed. It's like if you want to go pro in CS, it's like that's it. You're playing CS all day. 10-hour days, even the days you don't want to play, because I have a lot of those days where it's like I just kind of don't want to play the game. For every game, it's like today I just don't feel it. But if you're contractually obliged to play that game, you have to play the game. So it's one of those I could never take the step up in those other games because I just didn't want to spend. I couldn't commit myself to it basically, because like I always wanted a career in television, or for a long time I have. So it's one of those like if I commit to professional gaming, then I can't go down the TV route as well. And then so it's like I'd rather leave it more casual at the moment, I think.
Dude, wise words, man. Damn, dude. I like it.
I kind of agree with it though, in the sense of like, let's say like this is something that you would want to turn into a career, something in the gaming sphere. The most obvious routes are competitive and then entertainment. So like, are you a streamer that got big because you're like Shroud, where you're really just technically gifted at games and you were always high ranked at stuff, and then people watched you for those awe moments of like, how the fuck did he just get that quadruple kill or that ace in that round? And they were all like, he was by himself, all his teammates were dead. But then there's also those other like streamers and content creators that are on the absolute opposite side of the spectrum, where they're not necessarily that good at the game, but they have something about their personality, whether it's their humor or the things they say, how insightful they are, that kind of draws in an audience as well. And you could lead that to a lot of different people, whether it's like I don't know, like I can't even, there's so many different examples I can't even really think of, like of a streamer that's like, oh, just completely funny. But when it's like a spectrum of both sides, where like you could literally be both too. And it's more of just one of those, where do you want to fall and what is it I'm going to prioritize? Because the more you focus on like really like being super focused in the game, you're not reading chat anymore, you're not really talking as much because you're super focused on being like number one in whatever you're doing. But then if you want to be more interactive and entertaining, it's like, okay, I'm going to look at chat. It's like, oh, Aeflic looked at chat to read my message and he got killed by some guy that he didn't see because he was looking at his other monitor. Or like, oh, Shoctor died because he was talking about some random point that he was looking at the monitor, but he was too busy looking in his head to figure out the words to say. And like, he just like died right there because he wasn't focused. So it's definitely one of those things where at the end of the day, I kind of agree with you. Like, I played Overwatch, not to the level that you did. Played CSGO, again, not to the level that you did. And I played Apex, but again, not to the level that you did, because I didn't like.
Whose level were you playing at, dude?
Well, he was top 500 at the game. How much? There's only 500 people that can get there. So like, I just didn't see the point in like wanting to grind for something like that. And even if I did become a professional, again, exactly what you said, you have to literally live, breathe, eat the game. Like, it's the only thing you can think about. Let's say a new game comes out, Cyberpunk comes out. It's like, oh, I can't play it because I have to do 7 scrims later, and we have prac in the morning. I got to go to our game therapist to make sure I don't get the willies or some shit, and then we have to eat. I don't know. It's like this whole controlled thing. Like if you're like in a big like CS:GO team or something like that. So I like at the end of the day, I just want to be like my own lazy piece of shit self. I want to order a pizza, play a random game, act stupid, go to bed at like 4 in the morning, and then just rinse and repeat that over and over again. Aeflic, on the other hand, is completely different though. You live, breathe Planetside.
Oh, man,
I left
true.
you in 2014, and you never stopped.
That's true. I took some pretty big breaks for Blackout. Blackout BR was the first thing that took me away, and then Tarkov, and then Baby, obviously. God, dude, what were you just talking about? I wanted to make a point on that. Shoot.
Going pro, entertainment versus skill.
I do want to move the podcast along, but I just want to drop one thing. It's one of the scariest things to do. Because people have asked me, what amount of money would you quit your job for if you're streaming right now?
Oh, true. Yeah, to make it a career.
And I was like 80,000, because essentially that's a little bit more than like what I make now. Not that, I mean, I guess, okay, maybe I shouldn't disclose that or whatever. But.
No, that's fine. That's just however much you want to make.
But my thing is, like, it's still one of the scariest things. Okay, you go pro in CS, but then CS dies for some reason, or they end it. Does that transition to the next game? Maybe. In your case, it sounds like it does, James. But Planetside dies, like, where does my stream go? Even if I was big, right? Where does it go? Can I play other games? Is it as fun? Do I have as much fun? Do I want to do that? There is no benefits, right? Like an actual benefits, 401k. Like there's so much, it just becomes such like a scary thing to dive into. To even if you were 1 year to make that much, for you to be like, okay, or for you to get there, it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to sacrifice what I'm doing right now for the chance for this to happen. It sounds like it's going to happen. Let's move forward with it. And then even if it were to happen that year, it's like, okay, what's going to continue this down the line so that I can retire, or I can provide for my family, or whatever it is, or to do what, you want to pursue, like TV, for instance. It's a very, not saying that you shouldn't do things like that, because that's life in general, but it is a very tough choice to make. It's a very interesting one. Yeah, it's a very interesting one because it's such a different thing.
That's like something that's true across the board, I think, with any sort of job that aligns with entertainment, because it's not like, because
you put the time in and you get lucky. Yeah, but go ahead. Essentially,
it's one of those things where even if you did have put the time in, you got lucky and you got that gig, you're averaging all these viewers, etc., or you have a highly rated show on CBS or something like that. It's not a forever thing. Right. Like my job right now could be a forever thing. I prepare documents, I send them out, I get the approvals, I get them, document them again that they're approved, etc. It's this never-ending cycle that's just, I could be duly employed for the rest of my life until I retire. So that risk is low, but the reward's pretty low too. Like I'm not gonna make millions doing it. I'm not gonna make hundreds of thousands. Maybe I'll make like 100K if I stay with the company and I get those incremental like boosts in my pay. But I'll be like 50 or something by the time I do that. So, and I think you could relate to this actually, James, because it's something that you're pursuing in your actual life, your personal life, where you're going towards something that's a risky field to get a job in. Like the entertainment industry is completely volatile. It's probably the most volatile thing ever because it changes based on what your target audience is, what's in, what's out. Oh, it's like, oh, now we're on TikTok. Oh, we were on Instagram. We were doing this whole thing for Instagram. And somebody that comes to mind that I think of is Zangief. He's like one of the people in Back's joke. and he was pretty impacted by COVID, where he wasn't able to do a lot of the stuff that his company wanted him to do. So he was furloughed, and then he was just kind of left to the side until his company kind of brought him back. And luckily now he's employed again and he's working. But the entertainment industry kind of gets hit quick, and then you have to adapt. And I'd love to hear kind of your insights too on like what you think. And this kind of is going a little bit off the script. We're not really talking about Planetside anymore. And this kind of relates to the streamer meta of like how we want to see like things grow and whatnot. But it's still really interesting to talk about. Like, how do you see yourself adapting? Like, have you always been an adaptable person, and are you willing to take that risk? Because it seems like you are, since you're you're pursuing it for school and you want it to be your career. But like, what is your mindset about that? And I guess what sort of feedback would you give to someone like Aeflic, where it's like, where we have the job that come with the health insurance and the benefits, and we have like a stable pay, and we can support a family with an income forever. But it's like, oh, but it's inside we're itching to just like be streamers or comedians or gamers and something like that.
Personally, I'm slightly of the opinion that like you're only gonna get this life, so fucking live it a bit. Go do the things you want to do, see the places you want to see, do the things you like. I'm terrified of heights, but as soon as COVID's done, I'm going skydiving. I've decided to myself I want to jump out a plane.
Nice. Good for you.
So it's one of those, like, for me, I'm not particularly like money driven. I'm pretty happy to live by my means. I don't have to upgrade my car to something nicer, or my computer doesn't have to get upgraded every year. It gets upgraded every like 4. And that's still a lot, but it's one of those. I think it changes a bit once you consider, like, if you want a family, I don't think you can live. You have to live a little bit more within like that realm of consistency, a bit more security in your life. I always think, like, if I get to that point where I want a family, I want a job that's a bit more consistent, I might go for one of those like because with the film industry, you can only work at the same job for 4 years, and then you have
Right.
to move on for some legal reason. I don't know why. It's
I
never
didn't know that,
perfectly
dude.
explained to me.
Bro,
But basically,
who are you, bro? Are you amazing? My gosh. Sorry,
but
go ahead.
it's but it's one of those, like, unless you're working at a fully contracted, like, you're working for the BBC or something, you can't work for the same film company for super extended periods. You have to be contracted out to a different company, which means you're always at risk of, like, what if that other company you move to suddenly dies and their productions no longer get funded? So I'm always of the opinion, like, if I get to the point where I want a family, I will look for a more secure job. But just whilst I got this, this time, this youth, blah blah blah, I kind of want to do more things, try things, see things. That's why I took a degree in the arts instead of like one of the maybe questionably smarter degrees, because I had the A levels to go into economics or psychology, God forbid.
Oh, I remember us talking about this. You were talking
Yeah,
about this on
like,
stream.
I'm thick as hell now. I'm gonna be real. Like, as soon as I finished my exams, I lost all the knowledge. But it's like I could have gone into those, but I was sort of like, what, TV sounds fun. It sounds like something. Every day I wake up, I'm not doing the same thing. And to be fair, I love working. It sounds really weird, but when I was a bartender cleaning up sick and stuff, I felt happy. I'm enjoying being a part of something and working towards a goal. So I don't know. I think I'd be happy with any job.
It's a special quality, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
no, 100%. I can't relate. I literally
having,
can't.
Having passion for where you work, and I'm sorry if you want to continue what you were saying, I'll back off. But
no, I'm rambling basically.
A lot of people don't have passion for their work, and I'm not saying they should. And that's something that's been weird for me to embrace because I assumed everyone kind of did. Like, you go to work, like, okay, I want to, like, it's weird. Like, I want to be like the best. Like, when I worked at FedEx part time, I talked about this in my podcast. Like, I was like, I'm working here part time. Like, I know it's like I'm not gonna become a manager or something. I was like, I'm just sorting packages at like midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning. But I just want to be the fastest sorter. I want to move 70 packages a minute or something. Like, that's what I want to do. And like, everyone's like, what? Like, wouldn't you just want to do the minimum? So you keep your job? It's like, no. Like, I'm gonna come over here and help you, and then I'm also going to see if I can't still be number one, but also now I'm helping somebody, right? Or like, I wanted to partake at my old job before I got this new one. I suck at softball, baseball, really, really bad. But I wanted to go to all the games, like, and like be part of like the team essentially, like not play. And like, I remember like trying to get more people there from like the office, and they're like, why would I go to that? This is my job. Like, I just come here like to do my job and then go home and leave. And I was like, oh, I was like, damn, bro, I'm trying to have some fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tried to like make friends, and it's just like a weird thing that like some people don't have any passion for what they do, not even the slightest. And because I felt blessed to get the job after FedEx that I had in insurance. It paid well. Like I was like, they were very like hands off, like do your job and then do whatever you want. Hence why I stream. And for some people to like almost not appreciate that or like to care, it was like a very like weird feeling for me. And maybe that doesn't tie into what you're saying, but like I kind of feel the same way as you do. Like I don't necessarily love always working at like certain jobs because sometimes like things hit the fan and I'm not the man, so I kind of get shed on sometimes. But that mentality of like having passion or enjoying work, I think, is important. So I don't know. I just want to touch on that. I don't know how far behind we are on our script here, but
No, we're fine, bro. I kept
like
it,
on thing one.
I know I kept it light because we do have like 3 things to talk about, like 3 main topics to talk about with Planetside, but I find these conversations really fun, and that's the beauty of having a platform like this is we're not pressed on time. We don't have to cater to ad breaks or anything like that. If you don't want to watch, you can head off. Like it's just we don't we upload this to YouTube. If you can't stay up too late, you can kind of continue. We're actually adding timestamps to it too, so people can continue where they left off. So I don't know. I think that's something cool, and this is something that everyone's kind of dealing with too. Like what people look at things like this, where it's it's funny they say life is too short, but in my opinion, it's the longest thing you experience. Like there is nothing longer than life. So
I've never heard that, bro.
Yeah,
that's a really good saying.
So it's one of those, what are you going to do and how are you going to bring up your time? Because, you said you're 21, Aeflic, I think you're 29. I'm 24. I'm turning 25 in like 2 months. So it's like, what am I going to do here? I'm hitting my quarter life anniversary or whatever, if I'm assuming I'll hit 100 or something like that. So what do I want to do? And what ends up being my overall analysis of things and why I can't apply like 100% energy to these jobs that are just like super monotonous, paper pushing stuff like that is because my core reward system has always been, and this is where Aeflic jumps off the pot. I don't know, bro. He does this all the time, bro. I'm glad I have you, or else it's usually just me by myself. It's like it ends up being one of those things where I don't want to put myself in a situation where I'm not doing the things that I love, whether it's being a comedian. I love to make music. I love color. I love artsy things. I just love being like, not to be like that. Oh, I'm quirky. Like I like artsy stuff. That's like music, the arts, and I caught myself in that trap and didn't stop myself in college, and that's why I ended up just doing like a business management degree and didn't do like a music production thing, which I honestly probably should have done. My music would probably be way better if I just did music production. I would have focused more time on doing music production, and I'd probably be a better producer and musician right now. But I played it safe because it's like, your parents also kind of like factor in here too, where it's like they're like, you need to go to school for this, you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, etc. So right now I'm like, I still work every day, but you can see I'm very lethargic if you were like my manager. But as soon as like work is done, like laptop is closed and I go right into like either making music or streaming, trying to like have fun, do stuff that's fun and share moments with people. Because, at the end of the day, like as cringy as it might sound, like I would love to be a streamer or I would love to be a musician. And people are always like, why would you want to do that? Get a real job. Go sit at a cubicle all day. It's like, no, I can't. I tried doing it for 3 years now and I hate it. So I'm on that path to try and figure out something else to do.
Sick.
So I guess we'll just kind of move on to the next thing.
Yep.
Something that's more chill since Aeflic isn't here. Who is nicer, Richard or James? This is the hardest question of all time.
That's a really easy question for me. It's Richard, like 100%. Because Richard's just like a sweetie all the time and always has been ever since I know him. Whereas I know for a fact I've had like those rougher times where I wouldn't want to probably know me. Like I've definitely had those moments. Like I stay away from like gamer words and stuff like that. I've definitely gotten angry at people, whereas I don't think Richard's capable of. Richard's like a golden retriever in a person.
Yeah.
He's just so nice.
Yeah, Richard's been probably one of the most positive people I've ever met online.
Yeah.
To the point that it feels like disingenuous if you didn't actually know him. It's one of those like if somebody was like that because because he plays CS:GO. Like if I
Yeah.
heard him in like a Valorant or a CS:GO in-game voice chat, and he was just like, "Hey guys, let's do this," I'd be like, "Shut the! Why are you being? I know you're trying. I know you're trying to make fun of me right now, bro. Everyone's mean. What are you gonna do to me?" But Richard's just always so kind
Richard's
and
so
polite. It's insane.
like since playing with him more often, like I met him and spoke to him a fair few times over the past, but like since we got the pill team together, he's like driven me to be more positive. Like I feel like since knowing him, I feel more positive.
Yeah.
He's just infectious, basically.
Richard Richard he's a really good guy, and if you guys don't follow him on his Twitch, follow him. Richard was taken. I love
Two.
watching him. Or Richard was taken
Yeah.
too. Yeah, my
Yeah.
bad. And he's just, I love watching his streams. Just like I hate vehicle gameplay, but as soon as he gets in a Prowler, I'm cool with it. 'Cause it's like it's Richard. Why would I not want to watch
Yeah,
that?
no, really, really good person. He's like the ideal of what you want out of a person in gaming, I think. It's just he's all positive, he doesn't see the downsides in what's happening,
Yeah.
It's one of those nice people to just be around.
And we'll definitely touch upon that as well as the rest of your team when we get into our first topic. But I do have one more question for you, and it's kind of another question that we'll build on later when we talk about
Okay.
like the Esamir PTS playtest that was happening last week. But what are your thoughts on the current dev team, like when it comes to the way they communicate or the things that they've been releasing? Like, are there things that you like, things that you don't like so far? Like, what are your current thoughts at the moment?
So my philosophy on this might not agree with everyone's, but basically this game is 8 years old. This is a game that's getting on in its years. There's not many games I know that are older. That it's only very iconic games that have lasted like longer in my mind. And it's one of those like I think a lot of people that have played this game and have put it down aren't going to come back no matter what we do, or what the developers do. I think they're just done with it. I know a lot of people in BHOT, no matter what updates they bring to this game, I can tell they're not going to come back. And the people that are still here playing it 8 years later are probably going to play it no matter what update they push. So I'm actually really happy for the devs to try new things. It's if the game doesn't go the way I want it to, I'll switch games, and so be it. But if someone else gets to enjoy it because of that, that's fine by me. It's the game doesn't owe me anything. This isn't a game designed for me. It's a game designed to be played by anybody. As in, like, they shouldn't cater to what I want. They should cater to what they want their game to be because it's their bloody game. So I'm happy to see like that they're trying things. It's exciting to see them. These new systems they want to put in the game. Well, they're a little like early stage. They're not as developed as they could be, but it's just the idea that the dev team wants to push these big updates and start. Like the Bastions, the Colossus, Outfit Wars, the new PTS and new Esamir stuff. It's just cool to see the game like trying to move, and not stagnate, which is really nice.
Yeah.
That might not be how everyone agrees.
So what I would say is, from doing this podcast, when I first came in, I was very adamant on like I want it to be this thing, like add a 6v6 game mode so that we can just do it there, do this, do that, infantry this, infantry that. But the more I've been doing this, and the more, not only have I been like, because I have to review a lot of things beforehand as like the person who's like, producing the podcast while I'm also doing it with Aeflic. So I'm usually the one that's finding like new topics and running about Aeflic to see like what his thoughts are, what he wants to talk about, what he doesn't want to talk about, reviewing Reddit, looking at chat, making like just seeing what everyone's saying about stuff. There are so many different, I want it to be this, I want it to be that. And it's such a sandbox game that I think it was either last week or the week before, I literally turned a new leaf when it comes to my thoughts about the game. And I'm like, whatever comes out is fine. Because it's not my game to make. If it was, I would probably have gone this route, but it's not my game to make. And how I see it now is the game, it is what it is. Like we have to, we either, if we like it, we play it. If we don't, it's time to move on to something else. Like rather than being like the adamant, I need this to change, or this needs to be like this. Like you can give your feedback. Obviously I don't want a broken game, but
no,
I'm not the level design, game design, roadmap creator for the game, and I'm not gonna be like the backseat roadmap person that's like, you need to go that way. It's like they have their GPS already set to a direction, and these are decisions that have been made like weeks,
Yeah.
months, maybe years ago that they're kind of establishing into the game. So my whole mindset now is like we're in this vehicle and we're on the ride and we're enjoying what we're seeing, but we're not backseat developers, we're not
No.
backseat game designers. And you know, if they're making new stuff to the game that, as you said, is 8 years old, that's fantastic. That just shows that they haven't given up on it.
No, they still care. You know, it's Planetside a free to play game. You know, I've put money into it. I've put maybe more money than I should have put into it, but that's besides the point. I've gotten like 3,500 hours out of this game for a free game. You know, the game doesn't owe me anything. It doesn't need to be developed the way I want it to be developed. You know, that's definitely my fair share out of a game. You know, if that was anything else, you know, 3,500 hours out of it is enough. You know, that's it. So I'm happy to see them try things. Really, really am.
100%, man. So, you know, that kind of goes over everything that like we wanted to ask you when it comes to like who you are as a person, as a gamer. I feel like even now, like these aren't things that we were like, all right, tell us your answers now so we can like we all learned this stuff at the same time together. It's so cool to kind of, you know, add
It makes
like
it a lot more fun.
yeah, add a
That makes
personality
sense.
to the game
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So what we'll do now is we have 3 topics that we'll go to, all Planetside this time. We're not going to talk about NVIDIA graphics cards or anything like that. But the first thing is a PIL update. So last time we talked about, when Aeflic and I did the podcast, what our thoughts were on the tournament itself. We thought, you know, we talked about like our top 2, top 3 favorites, maybe some wild cards and stuff like that. But you know, right now we have somebody who's playing in the tournament, directly involved in the tournament, not only playing but also casting in the tournament. So what are your thoughts so far on the tournament when it comes to this PIL? And then what are your hopes? What are your, don't leak any strats. I know Sayan's in chat, he might get mad. But like what's your current roadmap of like what do you want to see the team do, and we'll kind of go forward from there.
So to start off, I think Pill's been great. I think it's been a really fun experience so far on all aspects of it. The streams, the gaming, you know, like all of it just feels like a really fun, enjoyable tournament, which is what you want out of a community event. Like we're not competing for a prize pool. So at the end of the day, this is about having fun, you know, in a slightly different way than the game's intended to be played. You know, it's just our little niche of how we enjoy playing it. So I've really enjoyed it so far. I think the game, I've seen some amazingly close games. Like some really good games have already come out, you know, and we're in groups. You know, this is early tournament. This is before the teams that make it through the group start smacking heads against each other. This is like just in the early stages. There's been so many teams that I didn't think would win a match that won a match against like a team that everyone thought was be better, and you know, it's been really good. I'm really happy with how our team's doing. You know, I think we'll come first in our groups as long as we don't lose. I think our next match.
So
So
that's typically how it works.
yeah. No, but like no, I mean like because I don't know if DDRG wins their next match, then we're both 1 loss. I think.
Oh,
But if we lost the next one, yeah. So I think yeah, no, we're doing really fine. You know, it's been a pleasure to play with the team. It's a very enjoyable team. Our pill team. I think we're trying to stay as far away from taking it seriously as we can, which is ideal for us. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's an 8-year-old game. If we lose, we lose. If we win, we win, and we don't get remembered because it's an 8-year-old game. You know, it's one of those like I'm just really happy to be along playing it. Yeah, so
I can see that the general enjoyment that the BHOT team has is really high up there, and that's actually like the next question. But like the dynamic of the team is really it's really up there, because you have, you know, the first thing that people look for in a team is they don't want like tilters. They want people that are like a pleasure to play with. And this is also, I think, the first podcast that Aeflic and I did when we did the PIL, when we talked about Pill I. We were just talking about like all the things that you would want to see in a team, excuse me, that's doing any sort of competitive game, whether it's Planetside or any other game, Overwatch, CS:GO, Valorant, whatever you want to watch. And something that I think we kept bringing up is just the dynamic of the BHOT team, because you have players like you and, like we said, Richard being the nicest guy ever. You have Saiyan, who's just like one of the most lax people ever, that's just always gonna perform and isn't gonna get angry or anything. Like I've never heard Saiyan's voice go higher than, yeah, yeah, one dub, yeah, I dub. So it's like he's so quiet. But it's like, you know, those are good teammates to have. Like, the communicators, they're not gonna scream or get mad at somebody else for playing the game like incorrectly or poorly or anything like that, because it's always gonna be a constructive criticism thing at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
as you are leading arguably one of the best teams, your team is the favorite at this point because you guys won Pill I. You guys, I think you were undefeated in Pill I, correct?
Yeah, we haven't lost an actual match yet,
That's
so
crazy.
we're doing all right.
Yeah, I remember you. I think you guys lost to ZYZZ, but that was just in like
Yeah,
a
that was like
random scrim.
like a practice one. Like, yeah, we
So,
we lose
undefeated
a
in
load of,
official matches. That's crazy.
we lose a load of scrims. I'm gonna be like, practice scrims, we're losing left and right. I'm gonna be real. Like, leading up to Pillai, we were getting battered.
Dang.
But
Did you have your full stack and were you guys trying? Did
No.
that make sense?
No. So I think it was only in Pillai that we actually got like our ideal roster. Like, because I'm very fortunate in the way that we can cut our team basically anyway, and it's a really strong six. You know, there's no one on the there's no one on the team that's like, oh, you know, like, oh, I'd rather they didn't play. So we're really fortunate that like any match we turn up to, I'm always confident. As long as we can turn up, we have issues with like attendance, but that's fine. As long as we can turn up, I'm happy with the team that we field. But yeah, it wasn't until Pillai that we got like the six that we were pretty confident would be our strongest six. Was when we first, like, I think it was on the Thursday. You know, the tournament started the Friday, and on the Thursday we played like the first practice scrim with our ideal six. So it was like, because DBO is like probably our strongest LA. You know, he's a really good heavy as well, but DBO is like probably our most experienced, strongest LA. And he signed up for Pillai. You know, he 3 months earlier, you know, we made the team, and he was like, yeah, I'll play, bro. Didn't hear from him for 3 months. A week before the tournament, he suddenly pops back up, plays like 5-10 practice scrims, and he pops off. You know, he does really well. But it's like, we just couldn't practice with him before that because he just hadn't played. Yeah, so I forgot what the question was. I'm gonna be real.
Oh no, I was just kind of asking you, or we just kind of went to a random thing actually. But that does kind of go into like what the question was going to be about, like the whole dynamic of the team. But something that I did kind of want to talk about, just in the sense of, you know, people will say like Planetside, competitive Planetside, Omega Lol, competitive Planetside, weird champ. Like they'll say like weird. They'll just say like it's not like why the game is not a competitive game like that. But something that I've always been interested in, just by hanging out, because I hang out with a lot of the players in BHOT, there's not, you guys don't do a lot of like prep for matches. You guys just kind of play the matches and fill in who you can, because you have a strong lineup of good players and you guys can just make it work off of your individual performance. Do you see that as an advantage or a disadvantage to the game itself, where you don't necessarily need anything past just raw skill to become like the best at the game? Because, you know, there are teams like I've seen like whether it's in like a CS:GO where you need like executes and stuff like that, and if you don't know how to break into a site, then even if you had the best 5 players in the world, like a good solid defense of like A tier players and like only one S tier player could hold off a whole group of 5 S tier players. And people like that in a game like CS:GO because it's complex. But then the flip side of the coin there is, okay, Planetside doesn't need that, so it's more accessible when it comes to competitive, but then it loses that complexity. Do you see that as an advantage or a disadvantage to the game overall when somebody is viewing like a PIL?
I consider it an advantage. That might be because I am one of those players that we're not very strat heavy. We're more on just the raw skill side of things. I think, I mean, Planetside competitive, at least with how it's set up currently, I think should lend itself more towards skill than strats, just because it's hard to run this game on strats when there's so many issues outside of like the core game, as in like, you know, the only server is in America, so every team has to be playing to an American server. So there's already like, you know, you don't want to move the game into a complexity on top of those issues that already exist in Planetside competitively, I would say. So I prefer it was more, I prefer if it always took itself slightly more casual and lended itself more towards, you know, just come on, shoot. If you have a good day and you're shooting well, you do good. If not, it sucks, but you boot it up next day. I prefer it like that than if the game. I'd think it'd be a disadvantage if it became a case of like, hey, everyone sits there for like 10 hours watching VODs and learning how to throw like perfect conk nades to land at small staircase when you're pushing here. Just
Question.
because, like, question?
When you're done.
No, well, I'm happy to go.
If you were the main carry on a different team, and maybe you had a backup carry or somebody equal talent, would you take it? I mean, and some teams don't. Like, the thing is, like, there are some teams that are just not at BHOT or ZYZ level that are not taking it that serious. Are just enjoying it, like you're talking about. But I'm just curious, would you take it differently? Not all the way full tilt, throw this nade here, do that, but would you take it any differently if you were the main carrier or the only carrier, or maybe you were one of two carries on a team? To where you felt you had a bigger responsibility. You guys did want to win, let's say,
Yeah.
or do really well. You wanted to perform, but you're not trying to like do 6 scrims a day, yada yada yada. I'm just kind of curious your take on that. Would that change? Because you're on like a very stacked team, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think there's several stacked teams, which is good for the tournament.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. Like our team, load of good players. Like it definitely is a very stacked team.
And again, I don't think it's bad because there are enough teams that
Yeah,
I think are stacked.
if we were the only one, it would be an issue because then,
Right.
like, although I'm saying like I don't want this game to be super competitive and like die hard strats and stuff, I do want competition in the game because a tournament of stomping is just not fun.
Right.
There's no point playing. Like, why even start the tournament if there's only going to be one team that's ever going to win? Which is I think Pillai's got an amazing, or Pill 2 has an amazing lineup of teams that could win. Like this, there's easily 4 or 5 that could take that top place. It's
Right.
in terms of if I was the solo carry, or like there was maybe another one. I It depends on your mentality as a player, I think. Um, if you if you're a desiring winner, and you play every game to win, then obviously you probably will delve into like trying to take it a bit more seriously and try and wrap your team on the knuckles anytime they're stepping out. But I personally don't think I would be like that. I think if I was playing on a team where I wasn't as fortunate to be like one of the worst players on it, um, and if I had to step up and carry, I don't think I could be. I think if I have to carry, I'm quite quiet normally when I carry. Like if I'm having a really good game, I'll mostly just call out like kills I'm getting. Whereas in most games I play where I'm just sort of like middle of the road, I'll be the first heavy to push and stuff and die and get traded out. I'm a lot more like shouting and like calling my team out, like, yo, you win those, push it, you got that. It's a lot more like I don't think I personally could take it seriously, but I can see why someone would, just if they're trying to
Not
drive their team to a win.
toxic level, like yelling at people, but more like, okay, we have to think about the game. We can't just come in with a random 6 lineup.
Okay, yeah.
We know we're all going to frag out. But I'm a carry, and I guess we can phrase it a little bit differently. But you're the main carry there, or there's 2 of you, and it's like, okay, for us to have a chance against like this team that we're going to play BHOT for this match that's coming up. Let's say you're playing against BHOT. It's like, okay, we have to do something a little bit different. We can't just show up, and it's fine because some teams will do that. I'm just curious, would you look at, I hate to say strategy because everyone means about that, but the strategy of it a little bit differently, and like, okay, we know we don't have the best LA, but we're going to do this to supplement
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay. I think that's a good thing actually. I think you can do that as a team. Like I look back at it to Eurodome 1, which is the tournament we run. AMO, the Spanish team, were not the strong team going into that tournament. They were, compared to the Americans, the Australians, and then like the more well-known European players, they were like one of the weaker teams going into that. But they surprised so many people with the wins they pulled out. Because they did, like Duana, one of our players, like basically ushered them into greatness. He went through with them and like taught them how to play the game properly, and like because Duana's one of those players that has a massive knowledge of like Duana's one of the nicest people to play an FPS game with because he'll do all the learning for you, and then he'll just tell you what you need to do. So you just need to be able to aim and move basically. So I think that's definitely something you can do as a team of if you're going into a match or a tournament and knowing that you're not going to be the top shooting team, like you don't have the firepower that the other teams have. I definitely think looking at your team and what works and exploiting that, definitely. Like Amol, I'll go back to it again. We in a practice scrim against us. Yeah, we had a practice scrim against them in Eurodome, and we rushed their building on Pale instead of going like through our building, and then fighting in the middle and then pushing their building. We went straight to their side door, all 6 of us straight in, and we wiped them. And that was it. It's like our LA strat, the drifter one we've got a video of where we all drifted across Shack. We were just like, it's funny, we'll try it. And then we saw Amol do that same thing to one of the teams in the tournament and wipe them. And it was amazing to see. It was just like, holy shit, they looked at that and were like, we're not going to win this, if we take this fight in the middle of Pale. And they rushed all 6 straight to side door on Pale and got the wipe. And it's one of the coolest things to see, like a team learning. So actually, yeah, no, I think it can be cool to see teams. I don't think they should lean too much into it.
I agree.
I
agree.
But it can be cool to see for sure.
I mean, and that's one is I think Shoctor talked about this a lot. Is your guys' chillness brings a certain level of energy. Not just even in Twitch chat, you guys are very active there. This tournament as a whole, compared to any other one, has really, I think, brought the community together. Like 250 viewers, like I was not expecting that during Pillai. That was
mad.
That's something that I was like, wow, like you can't name another streamer outside of Winter Gaming that pulls.
No.
And that's his viewers coming from his channel. Like really, it's not Planetside. I mean, yes, it is Planetside viewers, but majority of his. No one else has done that. No tournament, nothing. Like that was. It was like I was huge props to the teams, huge props to the admin team. Like it was something that was really exciting to see.
Yeah.
The community pull that together and to be a part of. And I think you guys bring a lot of that energy, positive energy and fun energy and kind of meme energy. And then you do things like the clip of you guys doing the drifter, and it's just like, and it works, and it's just fun. And I want to touch, and that's something that I want to touch on before. I think we skipped over that topic, so I wanted to say that. But no, I mean, I think it is important to lean into it a little bit if you don't have always the best players on your team. Obviously, you can go too far with that, and teams burnt out. So many teams burnt out from Pillai because they're doing 3 scrims a day, and they're all practicing it, and it got 1v1s, it got too serious, and then everyone's cool with it, and then no one realizes it, and it hits a boiling point, and then everyone's like, we're done. We're
like that's it. You hit that point, and it's like, yeah.
And it's just an interesting thing, but it is fun to see the B-Way team. Okay, they lost in the end of the pill, but I told everyone they're gonna surprise some people, and dude just popped off, whatever you want to say, and the team, they put some time in,
Yeah,
maybe it was too much time because they burnt out, but whatever. But it was like fun to see that, because that's what makes the tournament fun. Is like everyone's like B-Way's garbage, like we see them on live, yada yada yada, but then they come in and they do their thing, and it is exciting to see that, and it makes the tournament more fun. And there's the only one other point I wanted to make in regards to, and I do agree with you, I do think we should keep it casual, but if for some reason like Pill was taken into like an actual comp setting and it were to get like a little bit more serious, like money was involved, whatever, I don't think the meta has really played out in 6v6. One, because there's been 1 or 2 dominant teams pretty much every tournament. This tournament seems a little bit different. There's more dominant teams, or there's more teams with actual carries. Before it was just like, okay, you have who on your team? Nobody. It's like, okay, you have killers. Like it's much more diverse and a little bit more balanced, so to speak, which is exciting. But I don't think, if it were to hit that serious level, I don't think we've seen the meta play out. Like we never really talked about 2 light assaults on Paris until like recently, till like this season. Like we're seeing the meta change now, and everyone's like, oh, that actually works. But before you'd be like, that makes no sense. Yeah, and it's fun to see that. I talk about this all the time in the podcast, but I watch a lot of StarCraft 2 tournaments. I never play it. I just think it's really fun to watch the tournaments because the meta has been around for 10 years, and the way that it shifts and changes without the updates changing. And it's a very interesting thing to experience and to see progress. And it's actually a lot of fun. It gets a little crazy. Okay, throw your conch right here, but that idea of the meta shift, I was really excited this year to see some of that change slightly. And to do things like on the opening, you don't have to go into your building on Pale. The other team goes in their building, the bolts go up, and then it's like, okay, typically it's 5 heavies, maybe there's a light assault, and you guys kind of do this little tug of war game. It's fun to okay, we're just going to cut through the rock, and we're going to wait for them to go in their building, and then we're just going to dive in, and we're just going to murder everyone because no one's expecting it. And it's fun to see those things, not only from a good team like you guys, but you said Amol, they picked it up, and then boom, they crushed somebody with it. It's something that it just makes the tournament even more exciting when those things change, because everyone thinks, oh, stale cannon, here it goes, we know how it's gonna play. I was like, wait, what? I don't know. That's the only thing I want to say on it. But
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
that's
to clarify the initial question though is I wasn't asking, and this is because you guys realize this. I'm just saying more for chat, but I wasn't asking why structured teams are not as good as just raw skill teams, or why do you think that's the case. Like, we already know just from historical evidence of like the PIL Invitational tournament and then the current PIL tournament as well. But or and then there's also like the comparing Planetside 2 to Counter Strike. But the to clarify the point, it's we already know that structured teams don't work, and that we were using CS:GO as a comparison towards this is a game where structured teams do work. We're seeing it more as, do you think as a viewer, is it advantageous that like the teams are more just free flowing and kind of doing their own things and playing off of their own individual skills as a viewer's perspective, or as a community perspective of trying to make the tournament bigger and better, etc. So just for anybody that might have been tuning late or didn't really grasp the point fully that we were talking about, like, we already know that the structured teams aren't necessarily the best thing, because we've seen it, and the game in itself is like, if you're trying to figure out, okay, I need to stand here, and if I look at this pixel at the wall and then I look this way and I throw the conch, it'll land right in the center of small stair. It's like, by the time you do all that stuff, like, James has already killed you, or because the game moves so quickly, you don't have time to do this. Yeah. So I think overall though, that was a really good point. And it kind of does relate to what we were talking about earlier, of just like the dynamic of the team, where you guys aren't doing like, okay, you're this designated leader role, or you're this like, you guys have roles when it comes to in-game roles that you're good at, like, oh, I do light assault, I'm your flex player, I'm your heavy assault, I'm your bolter. But outside of that, like, you guys just really rely on that individual skill, and it's cool to see from your perspective of like being on the team, actively playing in it, and also casting the tournament, what your thoughts are on just the way the competitive scene in this game is. And I hate to say the competitive scene, it reminds me of like the old ESEA CSGO like memes and stuff like that, but the way the competitive scene operates in this game, where it's really just a conglomerate of like the best players all just put in different teams, and they kind of go at it, and it's highlights of just raw individual skill of who was on and who was off that day. And that's something cool. It's almost like flipping a coin sometimes, where it's like no one really knows what's gonna happen next, so let's watch and find out.
Just on a point on that, like, even outside of just having some of the best players, you guys have some of the most experienced 6v6 deep roster. It's not even like 4 of the 6. It's like, it's like 8 of the 12, or what I mean? It's something like, maybe it's 10, or maybe it's all 12 of you guys. Like, I don't know. There's like one player on there, like, who the hell is Sniper or something? But
he was Eurodome heavy. He played for BHOT. So everyone on our team, minimum 3 years experience in 6v6.
Because I remember watching a YouTube video or Twitch video of Saiyan back in the BHOT tournament on Pale, talking to Killjaden about the different angles on the other teams, like on the Southside base, and like figuring that out. Like, they did actually at one point take it a little bit more serious, and they still meet in the video. But it's like, it's not that long ago, but it's like they've come full circle now. It's just like that experience has just, it's played out essentially into where you guys can just really, and the chemistry is just like, Richard wasn't even playing very well on Aiken, and we'd scrim them, and the chemistry that they had on Aiken was so clean, and just like cutting corners in games to where you can take advantage of other things, but you're essentially throwing it yourself up for like a risky endeavor, or you have something to lose, but having the chemistry there to where you can cut that corner, and just watching it come together. And playing against it is really frustrating. I tilted. I don't tilt a lot, but I tilted on that match, because I know that like Richard's like, his skill was not, he just was rusty in the game, and like he would even admit that. And like, just to see the chemistry of like your guys' team and the way that it, like, just like a puzzle piece fits together is just, it's nice when, I guess, as a viewer, maybe not as someone that's playing against it, but it's just so crispy clean, man. It's awesome. I don't know what kind of point I'm trying to make, so whatever. Skip over me, man. I'm always going too deep. I'm just diving down the hole.
All right, so there are rumors that have been circulating amongst the competitive scene of the 6v6 community, that this might be the final Planetside 2 infantry like 6v6 tournament. what do you guys think? What do you guys? Because I, as somebody who's kind of late, I don't know. I wasn't around for like pharmacy. It's funny that you're dozing off to the question, but your camera is also kind of going out of focus. That was perfect timing for that. But I feel, because I agree. This is something that I've heard many times before, whether it's for like a certain thing in the game or it's for something in its entirety. But I also think about it in the sense of, like, when did Server Smash die? Like, did we know it was gonna die? It's one of those oh, the last time you rode a bike, you didn't even know that it was the last time. Like, I'm 14 and this is deep. Like, it's one of those things. So it's like, do you guys think that 6v6 has kind of stayed its course, or do you think someone new will pick up the mantle if the current team of volunteers that are running these tournaments kind of give up? Think someone else is going to take up the mantle, or is this kind of GG for this sort of scene?
Do you want to touch on it first, or you want me to go?
I'm easy. Which
All
right, I'll go. Yeah.
Hit it.
No,
Hit it.
Oh, I probably should have done. I should have directed that at someone. Yeah, go ahead, James.
I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't think this will be the end of 6v6. I think you've got it's prime Jaeger activity at the moment. You know, there's so many people playing. Now, admittedly, a lot of them are playing because it's Pill 2. But a lot of these people are like getting into this for the first time, or they're starting to come up as a team. You know, teams that weren't that great 3 years ago are now starting to come up, and they're not going to want to quit, I think, just as they're starting to get into it. I think there's demand for it. I don't know who will run it. Like, I couldn't say if it will be the same people that run Pill 2, it'll be a new set of people, maybe an old set of people come back and run it. But it's a case of, like, I think there's demand for it. I think that there'll be demand for more 6v6 tournaments, at least in the like upcoming future. I don't think, I don't know how much longevity it has, you know, outside of maybe another year or two. If the game's even that alive in a year or two. But I think there'll definitely be at least one more. I would like to think, with the amount of people playing, that it has the attention to grab at least one more tournament out of it.
What do you think, Aeflic?
Well, number one, it's the biggest it's ever been. Not only amongst the infantry community, which already knows each other to another degree, and now we're bringing in so many new outfits, so many new teams, so many new players, and now it's on Twitch. Like I said, I mean, it peaked at Pill Invitational for 250. Like, that's huge. So many people just seen that and like, oh, we didn't sign up for this. We've already missed it, but maybe we want to put a team together. Or, okay, I want to join a team. How do I join a team? So many people have asked me that on my Twitch. It's literally at its peak right now. Now,
yeah,
as long as the game is around and the bugs are, you know, not causing it to be an error, or the infantry gameplay, gunplay is changed, it all boils down to somebody, as long as there's an admin team to facilitate, it's not going to go anywhere. Like you said, there's a demand for it, and that's just the truth. I think about Server Smash. Server Smash, you're trying to bring not only the limited amount of elite infantry outfits that you have, but you're trying to bring midfits, you're trying to bring combined arms, you're trying to bring air-only outfits, you're trying to bring Zerg fits, and you're also trying to curate. Wow, Kawhi, hopefully you tell me that I used that right. Maybe I didn't. You're trying to curate this, all these and this is what live is about. This is why there's so much frustration with the devs from some people's viewpoint, is because you're trying to bring all these different things together, and you're trying to make it fit perfectly. And then the admin team for Server Smash is trying to restrict things, and then you have the Zerg fit saying, no, we need these, this is why, and then they're too scared to say no, and it just becomes this thing where there's too much friction, and no one's getting paid for it, and they're like, and there's like 18-year-olds running it, and they're like, dude, this is too much.
Don't be mean, bro. There were some older guys doing that stuff.
No, but that's not a mean thing. I'm just saying, like, I'd be like, bro, this is not my job. Like, I'm not doing a deal with it. Like, it's just too much to manage at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people just, like, it doesn't work without having, well, it then becomes a 66 tournament or a 12 tournament, but it doesn't work without the large scale pop, right? You need the Zerg fits. But then on the opposite side, like, when the elite fits left and the mid fits died, nobody cared anymore. So we needed each other essentially for Server Smash to survive, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that Pill's in a great position. It's going to survive. I don't see it going anywhere unless there's no admin team to run it. So again, it's at its peak right now. Yeah, I think that touched everything I want to say.
True. Yeah, I think something. So to relate what you were talking about for Server Smash, because I do agree, it's a heavy load for someone or a group of people to do, especially to not get paid. where I work on the proposal teams when we're trying to pursue new business at my job or my company. There's this job called material program management, and their job is essentially like, let's say you're trying to make some crazy server rack that like your customer, that's whoever it is, the government, the military, maybe it's a private company, they want like this server rack made so that they can host some sort of cybersecurity thing. It's just some random solution, right? But to get that rack, you got to buy the rack, the servers, the nodes, the cables, all those things, and it's thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of material. And it's somebody's job as the material program manager to literally have a spreadsheet of every single thing that needs to get ordered, all of the quantities, when they're going to come in. So when you think about that, move that over to Planetside now. It's like it's literally one person's job or a group of people's jobs to have like everything documented of every single player, all of their accounts, what squads they're going to be in, what platoons they're going to be in. It's just crazy, just a massive amount of information and data that needs to be like documented somewhere, so that if somebody were to cheat or someone were to I don't know, not show up, like you can have them accountable, or somebody edits the account, somebody, like there has to be all this documentation to support it, or else it'll fail as a like an opportunity or a pursuit when it comes to competitive Planetside. So I can see why that died, because this is just one match. You have to manage hundreds and hundreds of accounts and people, and you have to figure out how to show it in a way that people want to watch it, because there's 17 fights happening on all these different bases. But when you think about PIL, it's a 6v6 thing. I think there's less accounts total across all of the different people on all the different rosters than there probably is in a single server smash match. So it's like, I don't see it being too over encumbering for someone to pick up that mantle. Let's say if the current group were to not want to be the volunteers that run it anymore. But at the same time, it's one of those, some people like to say the game is on its last legs, and it is a volunteer thing. There is no prize money. There is no people getting paid for the stuff they're doing. So it's really just a matter of not if it's going to happen, but when. When is someone going to be like, I want to do it? And there has been rumors. I think I heard about like a potential B-Way tournament, and they like opened up their internals too to like have people come to that. I think I've heard of another tournament. There's been a lot of stuff that kind of gets circulated, but at the end of the day, dang, you just 3 months subs right in the middle of the hey, thanks for the 3 months. I appreciate you. So yeah, it's one of those things where at the end of the day, it's who is going to pick up the mantle and when. And if neither of those happen, then it might be stagnant for a while if the current group doesn't want to do anything. Because this burns people out. It stresses people out, makes them do irrational things. That's a whole different conversation. But like at the end of the day, it's a weird thing to want to volunteer for if you're constantly being put under this load of stress and you're not getting a paycheck or anything else other than a hey thing. Even sometimes I feel like some people don't really think like the people that are running the tournament or casting the tournament or playing the tournament enough, because at the end, they're giving you free entertainment to just like watch, especially if you're quarantined because of COVID. It's like at least you have something to look forward to this weekend, because there's going to be match after match of people casting all day.
People love the shit where they stay, man. I mean, the game's been dying for 6 years now. Is it 5 years? I don't. Is it on its last leg? How many legs does it have? I don't understand.
Bro, it's been dying since 2015.
That's why I was like,
I don't know, when is it gonna die?
So many people love this shit on this, and it's like, wait, why do you have 6,000 hours in the game? I'm confused. Do you dislike it, or do you like? I don't know. And then I mean, it's just mind-boggling sometimes, and it's like, where would you go if I die? I think about that though. Like for my stream, like what the hell would I be doing right now for the podcast? But then we're obviously trying to, branch it out, so to speak. But the game's been dying for 5 years now. I'm not worried about Pill also now succumbing to dying. And after every Pill season, everyone's like, this is the last one probably. So like, make sure you guys play. Okay, it could be, yes, it could be, but realistically, it doesn't make sense unless there's no one to pick up that mantle. But you made a good point. It could just sit dormant for a little bit. As long as the game's alive, we know that people like that experience.
True. So I think this is actually a good question to go into, because this was something that I saw from watching your streams prior to Pill I, during Pill I, and then after Pill I, James, where hard just grind Planetside. Tournament happens, even harder grind because you're playing matches, still playing live to keep yourself tip-top shape. You win the tournament, and then it's like, all right, I'm so burnt out. And you were playing Tarkov. You were like, I just don't want to see the game. So what's next for you after Pill? Regardless of your results, whether you win, you lose, regardless, what do you kind of see coming up after Pill for you? A break from Planetside? What, you're still gonna stream? Like what are the next steps that you kind of see yourself going through in these motions?
I think I won't stop playing Planetside like I did after Pillai. Just because we, a lot of us were coming in pretty rusty going into Pillai. It was, we've played with the Hood guys back in SME. We had a joint team with them in SME 3. So we knew them already at least. And all of the guys have been in the outfit for at least like 3 years, but they, a lot of them American players. So it was going into Pillai, we had to do a load of practice just to get like team chemistry up and, make sure everyone was comfortable with what they were playing. Just make sure like, hey, I know I used to LA, but I don't want to LA anymore. And it's one of those like just checking all those things. So we played a load leading up to Pillai. Whereas this time in Pill 2, we're playing so much less. We're doing 1 practice a week, maybe. Sometimes we don't practice. There's POG stuff out now, like the POG lobby stuff. So we don't feel there's a need to like, you don't have to go like, hey, by the way, because during Pillai, it was like, hey, I've booked us a scrim on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Whereas now it's like, hey, we've got 1 scrim in 2 weeks. So I don't think we'll burn out nearly as bad. So I'll probably still play Planetside. I don't know if I'll play it as much just because it might be nice, to switch up games and see another game and play that. Yeah, I think I'll stay around. I'll still stream this game. And if another tournament comes up, hopefully we find a team, like at least we can find players, hopefully, and we'll play that. But yeah, that's it really.
Awesome.
Yo, I'm single, bro. No team. Just saying for next. I won't be toxic, I promise. Interesting, man. That's good, and I feel that as someone that won't uninstall or go latro and delete my characters. When I step away from it, thinking it's dying or it's dead, it's like, and then I have to come back to it. I'm probably one of the worst. Like when it comes to Rust, like it takes me like it could take me like a month or 2. And like I hate that feeling of like just being dog shit. And it's like I think like I just can't. I'm never going to put it down until like it's dead essentially. Like I need to like fully move beyond it. Because like you said, like playing through that Rust, it's just not enjoyable, and you almost have to like play even more than you probably want to get out of it. And that's why I came back to it, was for Pill. And it's funny is I'm not even playing it now. But good point, man. And hopefully, hopefully you continue to play Planetside and just stream it and maybe even stream other games. Because I'm excited to see your channel grow. No pressure, obviously, if you don't want to.
No, I appreciate that.
No, I think both of your channels are like my top channels. I think watch time overall. I think inclusive of like XQC, Mizkiff, because I watch bigger streamers too. Just because the time you guys stream at, it's perfect because I'll just be working, have the other monitor open. People would be like, why are you talking in chat if you're working, Shoctor? I'm like, well, let a man live, bro. Like, I'm just trying to have fun while I'm working. And then for me, it's like I stream like where the degenerates come out at like 1 a.m. and stuff like that. So it's cool to like, yeah, like the gremlins, bro. So it's cool to have like to see like the difference too of like not only what you guys do when it comes to like gameplay and stuff like that, but then just like how you guys interact and seeing that positivity. It does at the end of the day rub off. I remember seeing like a commercial on TV forever ago. It's like, one good action can lead somebody else to do a good action. It's like a ripple effect or whatever. And I'll be honest, like I'll see you guys be positive and stuff like that, or I'll see you guys play well, and it's like it empowers me to play well and be nicer. So I'm hoping like other people in chat, even though they might be like shitlords being mean and just like felt to put the people chat emote where they're just like slamming the keyboard talking shit. Like even if that's the case, like I think at the end of the day, like you guys' positivity and your humor, you guys not just like being all angry all the time, because we all have an example of like our pinnacle just angry streamer, and it might be different for everyone, but there's always going to be that pinnacle angry streamer that's just always angry at whatever they're playing. So it's cool to see that difference in that.
Typically when Quiet comes in, just
Ooh.
He starts off negative.
Well,
He
no,
just goes down.
Kawhi's
this road.
different. He doesn't stream though. He's not a stream. Oh, he did, but when he was streaming too, he would just kind of just be like chill. He's not like a rager. I'm talking
No,
about
I'm talking
like
about in your chat, bro. He's the
oh
worst.
oh you can put me
find
there
it.
too. I would make fun of you, but it's lighthearted
I'll find
making fun of you. I remember when the first day James did his face cam stream. I was like, James looked like the type of guy to have like 100 Tinder matches in the queue, but message none of them because he's too lazy to. So that's basically everything for the PIL topic. I think we talked a lot of cool stuff there. But our next topics involve actually watching some stuff. We're gonna watch something as a class. It's actually exciting.
Oh yeah.
This one, so I will preface this with, we're watching this not because of like us wanting to cause drama or us wanting to do anything of that sort, but it's more of it's an interesting take that I have personally never heard before. And it's a clip that was sent to both me and Aeflic's chat. Sent it over to James too. He's watched it as well. But it's the clip from Camikaze 78. He's one of the bigger Australian streamers who streams like way at night. Like when we're all asleep, he's streaming. But this clip has something to do with his thoughts on how the game currently, I guess, isn't nice or kind of dissuades people when they're not happy with the way they counter their game style. So we'll take a watch of it real quick and then we'll come back in a sec.
Here's your debate, Billy.
Hey man, if against you're a scumbag, you're not understanding, my man. If someone's having a rough time in game versing a higher skill player and if they feel as though they need to pull a vehicle or a max suit to counter them, why is that such a bad thing? Why is that, like, giving people shit for that is just, that's also another way to, you know, drive people away from this game. If someone goes, oh, that player's really good, I'm going to pull a force multiplier to counter them, and then they get shit on for that, how's that a healthy mentality as well? How does that keep people around?
So we've watched the clip. This clip is a very, very interesting clip. Just from
I do want to preface something though before we jump into this.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
We are taking this clip from his channel, obviously. Limited seconds, essentially. I do think we have him on here relatively soon, maybe even to break it down, because I want to give him a chance to speak for himself, because I went on his channel the other day and I was like, I mean, he's a nice guy. Actually, I don't mind him, and he actually has some pretty good YouTube videos, and he's pretty big on YouTube. And I was like, okay, maybe we're taking it out of context. So I do want to preface it like we're literally the news. We're literally the news, but we're taking something out.
React
and we're breaking it down.
Andes. We found a new name.
But I do think it is something important to discuss, because it does come up in my Twitch. I'm sure it comes up in James, maybe. Shoctor, definitely yours. But people have this mindset for sure. Many people. So go ahead though. I just want to preface it though.
Yeah, so the core of the argument is that a player should not be attacked if they're losing to someone over and over. It might be a high skill player that's I don't know, just killing them over and over in like a balanced set of, like, let's say they're both heavy assaults and player X is superior in skill, player Y is trying to catch up and he just keeps getting destroyed. They should almost be they shouldn't be attacked if player Y's next steps is to like pull a max suit or use air to ground or use a tank or anything like that to counter the player, rather than to just try to improve their own individual skill. So I agree with you, just to kind of also preface, like, we're not attacking him or anything like that. It's more of just this is a very controversial topic that a lot of people have differing opinions about. Because I personally disagree with the take. I could talk about this for hours, bro. The different domains should be separated just based off of map design. Like, it shouldn't be super easily accessible for like a plane to shoot a bunch of infantry that's like trying to like fight each other on a point and capture it, if the whole point of the base is for infantry to capture the base. And same thing with tanks. Like, tanks shouldn't be able to, like, imagine if tanks could just easily go into the airplane domain and just like turn some thrusters on and fly up and then just like start shooting one-shotting like aircraft. So that's my personal opinion. But I think having someone like James, who you've always been a person that I've seen when I watch your streams, as someone who not only, it's like you almost play devil's advocate in your mind to generate like a very good opinion that even if I don't agree with you, it makes sense because I understand your thought process about this. So what are your current thoughts on not only this take of his, but and any counter takes that you may have heard, but just balance in general?
So, I personally don't have a massive problem if someone pulls a vehicle to come kill me. I think that's fine. It's in the game. I could have pulled a vehicle too. You know, it so happens I'm an infantry player at the moment. I have done tanking and I've learned to fly. So I've probably done it to people myself, you know. I don't mind if someone does it. The only times I have issues with it, and I have one specific memory of this, is I was playing against a guy who's been on the Miller server for a long time, doesn't particularly like BHOT. And I ended up killing him like 4 or 5 times whilst as a bolt. So he came back in a Banshee and V6'd me after he killed me. And it's one of those, like, I have no problem if he decides, you know, he's fed up of dying as a bolt and he wants to pull a Banshee and he can come farm the fight. The only issue I have is if he then thinks that makes him a better player than me. It's when they use it as an excuse to say, like, hey, by the way, I killed you and you're bad. That's the only time I have an issue with it. Other than that, you know, it's in the game. It's fine. It's fine to die to things, you know. Christ, if I added up the amount of deaths I've had over my time playing Planetside, it's probably hundreds of thousands. You know, it's like I've died to every little way the game can possibly go. So I'm pretty happy to die, you know. If it happens, it happens. If I get air hammered, you know, so be it. You know, it might suck at the time, but I don't have an issue with that person going, hey, I'm going to pull an air hammer because I can't beat this guy. I just have an issue, and it's so few. Like, I just have one specific memory of this. This isn't common, of just the person like going like, hey, I'm getting farmed. So then they come back in this force multiplier and then use it as like an excuse to say like, hey, you're bad, you couldn't kill me. But that's my take on it basically. It's fine. It's fine. Just don't act entitled when you do it.
True. I think overall I understand, because I think there's different elements of it. There's the toxicity element, which has been an issue in the game forever. It's an MMO at the end of the day, where you can literally interact with literally anyone you had that you were able to see in the game, whether they were a teammate, a person who killed you, the person you killed. Like, if you're playing Modern Warfare or you're playing Warzone, it's borderline impossible to like get in touch with the person that just killed you or that you killed in the game, to like shit talk them outside of like, I think you can turn in-game chat on to like hear people talk like right when you kill them in Warzone, but you can't like chase them down and keep making fun of them over and over again like you can in Planetside. So I agree with you on that sentiment. Like, their toxicity in general, like, I don't think that should be something that is a detriment to the game or leads to a detriment of a game because somebody was just like angry. In my opinion, when it comes down to where I disagree with the take in its entirety, is the ending of his argument, where it's like, if somebody wants to do this but then they get shot on, how does that keep them around? But in my opinion, the argument should be more of, if they're able to do that and no one is ever rewarded for being good at the game and is constantly able to just get countered because the domains don't have a meaningful, or not a meaningful, but a reliable way to reduce their interaction, to the point where, like, if you play majority infantry, you don't have to worry about getting farmed by air or get killed by a tank, as long as you're in these spots in the maps that are designated to not get hit by those. And at the moment, we really only have like a biolab and a tech plant when it comes to bases that are extremely reliable. Of you, like, if you're inside, you are safe, and it is an infantry domain. But when it comes to that point, that's where I disagree completely, because I think more people leave the game because they're getting destroyed by a Bastion flying in the sky, blowing them up over and over again, or an air-to-ground vehicle that just destroys them because they can't leave their spawn room, than the opposite of people being better than them and then being mean to the person that's doing the thing and then they uninstall. So that's where I disagree with the point in its entirety. And I think Aeflic, you had some sentiments as well on your stream when you were asked to kind of react to it. And I don't know if you want to repeat it or if you've had some new thoughts,
Yeah.
but I'd love to hear your take on it.
You know me, I just go in and then I usually backtrack later on after it's been said. I'm like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
Because I went
It's like,
pretty
I'd
hard
like
on
to
it, man.
clarify what I said 3 podcasts ago.
Yeah, we're gonna make a correction. In some regards, he's not really wrong. The devs allow. It's not an exploit. It's not a hack. It's not a glitch. You are allowed to do it. And I think from that mindset, yeah, it's okay, and we should not be necessarily sending these players a tell or anything like that. I don't do that anyway. I agree primarily with James with what you said. Actually, 100%. It doesn't bother me. I've been killed. I rarely get killed by Bastion. I just usually don't go to that fight. Some fights are just unwinnable, and you know that just by looking at the spawn options that you have. Like, why is that Sunder beneath the mountain? You can't. But that's besides the point. So I scaled it back because originally I kind of condemned him. But the devs put it here. I think where my frustration comes from is back in the day, the resource system was different. There was timers on these things. They felt more like assets that you had to kind of manage. There was a little bit of logistics there. Now it's just like, oh, okay, well, we can pull it. And I don't have A to G Banshee. I had to get lucky with a Desi. Okay. And there's not much going up for you to get that Banshee. You have infantry. You can get the cheap ESF ASP point now to where you can chain pull ESFs pretty reliably. Okay, you get lucky. You get lucky. Someone Desis you. The chance of that happening 3 or 4 times in a row is very, very small. And usually A to G is in like an 80% overpop fight. That's my issue with it. So there's not even there's very little risk and there's very high reward for it to play over infantry. And I wish we would have got that resource revamp number 2, or we bring back timers, because I just don't like like you said, Shoctor, the domain interaction feels kind of shitty. And I wouldn't mind it so much if it was something that you had to, okay, I'm going to spend all my resources, I'm going to spend this, and I'm going to get this. I can't pull it for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever. And if I lose it, I can't be willy-nilly about it. Because it is something that's so much stronger. If I had a weapon that could just, boom, dunk a Banshee 90% of the time, I wouldn't have such an issue with it. And I really don't. I guess where my whole thing focused down to is I don't even care about this stuff, bro. I see A to G, I will go to the building, to the powerhouse. I go, to like at the tech plant. I take the tunnel. I avoid it. I can avoid it, and I can still get 20 kills there. Okay. My issue is where these things show up at. These things are never helping me at the 30% outpop fight, which I'm trying to help my team or whatever at, right? Because I can get the most kills there, and I think it's something that I can do the most work at. I think about Billy Bob, sorry Billy's out there. Billy Bob, BR5 spawning in, or BR1 spawning in for the first time. He doesn't know about the tunnels. He doesn't know about the teleporter. He doesn't probably even know to look that there's, it's 80-20. He just comes out of the spawn room, dead. How many people have been like, I can't get this name in the game because some BR6 has it and hasn't played for 4 years? And that's going to happen naturally. But my point is, I'm going so deep with this like I do for everything. I don't like where these things show up, and I think about the other players that have to experience this, and I hit the tab button and I see 1 kill, 0 kills, 0 kills, 4 kills. Sure, I got my 20. I'm content. But what happens to these players? Is that good for the game, I guess, at the end of the day? How many more players have left the game because of these interactions that, again, are set up by the devs? Like, there is nothing to control these. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but how many more people have left the game? I know my friends that don't touch the game for these reasons. Many of them. And I spend a lot of time on it. I want my friends to play it. And honestly, I don't think I have any IRL friends that play this. Actually, 0.
Same.
Because of these scenarios. And there's this mindset of like, oh, Aeflic's here, or like, the whole this big Grug's here, like, we're all going to team up against him. It's like, well, actually, you guys were already here with your 7 maxes, your 2 Cobalt Sunders, your 3 Banshees, your 2 Libs, the Bastion, and there's 4 people here. or there's 20 people here and you guys have 90. Like you guys were already here. Like it's not, you guys are not united against me and like, oh, Aeflic's here now, we're gonna pull these things. You know, like, and we never want to talk about the people that are also at the fight with a Leroy or a James or a you know what I mean? Like that's where I think the pain point comes in at for me. And I don't know if I really explained that well or talked about it well. I don't have an issue with this stuff. It doesn't really bother me. And I like to think about it like, and I know it's not Call of Duty, I get that. It's a very different game. It doesn't mean these things are good though in their current nature, okay? Just because they're there and the devs put them there and this is how they are, this is how the resource system is now, and then now there's no timers. Just because the devs did that does not mean it's good or balanced or works well for the game. It is there, I do understand that. I can go somewhere else and play a different game. But I think about Call of Duty, I can't, if Shoctor kills me or James kills me 4 times, I don't just pull a chopper gunner.
Yeah. It's usually the opposite. If I kill you 5 times in a row, I get the chopper gunner. Like
that's my point, though. Is like, and I talked about this on Deeg's podcast. Like, he's like, well, what if you want to main air? What if you want to main a Max? What if I want to main a Bastion?
So yeah, like where is the upper limit for that?
Exactly. Like these things sound like, oh, well, Aeflic. Like, no. I mean, at one point, the Banshee had a timer. Bastion essentially has in its own form a timer. Well, if we just got rid of that, you could just pull Banshee because you're in outfit now, whenever you wanted to. Like, you know, that's where that's what I want people to consider, and that's why there's so many infantry players that like have this Bushido way, right? This like, we're not going to do this for the most part because we know that it's not fun for newer players or players of less skill to fight against.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, if anything, we're helping you out by just playing infantry. We're just also good at it. That's my take on it. And again, I have nothing against Camikaze. This is just more the general mindset of if you're good, you're hacking, and yada yada yada. So I don't know. That's my viewpoint on it.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, James.
A good example of this actually that happened recently, just real quick, is the Spiffing Brit, the large streamer YouTube content creator that came across to play on Cobalt. He came for 2 sessions, I believe. You know, bringing hundreds of other people with him to like play the game. And the first time they played it, I think Cobalt was relatively pretty good. You know, some of the better pilots were on the same faction, helping make sure there wasn't like ground pounding and, you know, all the bastions got shot down instantly, blah, 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 blah. But the second time he brought, you know, all of his viewers to come play the game, they had 2 bastions pulled against them, like multiple platoons of like ground pounding them at the warp gate. They were getting orbital strike constantly, and that's it. He was like, we had really great fun, but we're not going to come back. And that was it. Like, all of those new players are gone. Whereas it's unlikely if those 300 players had come up across 10 top tier infantry players, and you know, these 10 top tier infantry players might be getting similar kills per hour. They're not gonna go like, oh, that sucks, you know, like they were probably still having fun, you know, just fighting the infantry.
Actually,
whereas
they probably would have won. They probably would have been cabin bases.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's like and it's just one of looking at those, like the vehicles I think are a bigger issue for people leaving, and that's like proof of it. Is I definitely think it was the bastions and the orbital strikes and the ground pounding platoons and the HE tanks like shelling them at the warp gate is probably what made them not come back.
That's why you're on the podcast.
Yeah. So no, but that's like just an example of it.
That's such a good, like, I don't have that view. I could have watched, you know, him stream or whatever. That's such a good point, man.
No, thank you. But yeah, that's just like a way of looking at it. Like, I think, sure, there's issues with, like, you know, good infantry players are going to farm bad infantry players. That's just, you know, I've spent the thousands of hours learning to get good at this particular game so that I can do it. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't think it takes as long to do it in a vehicle. And that's an issue, is so many more people can achieve what I've achieved in thousands of hours of practices of infantry by just pulling a Banshee Mozzie. You know, like they can pull similar stats, blah, 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 blah. And that's more likely to be frustrating.
You don't even have to fly, bro. You know what I mean?
It's one of those, like, I can see how getting farmed by infantry is annoying, but I think the whole time you know that person is just a person that spent a lot of time playing the game, and you can beat them eventually. You know, it's one of those, like, I can get there, bro. I can beat them. Whereas ground pounding, I'm a pretty decent infantry player, I'd like to think, but I can't stop myself getting ground pounded. You know, it's going to happen to me no matter all the experience I have. You know, if I get caught, I'm dead. So new players might look at it a lot more and go like, hey, there's nothing I'm gonna ever be able to long term do about this issue. This issue is always going to be hanging over me. So I would say, like, yeah, it's probably vehicles more likely than infantry.
I think, and even to go off of what you said and what Bellyrix is saying, a lot of new people, like for me, to try a new game, I will watch a lot of YouTube videos of other people trying it, especially if I have to pay money for it. Now, Planetside free, but some people don't even want to download it, man. You watch him. You think, is it Spiffing or Spiffy? Spiffing.
Spiffing grip.
Spiffing. You watch him play. You go, like, that looks kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I get that. Doesn't look that fun, right? And then you just never try it.
Or just think of the most recent example of Lyric coming and playing. It's like he just like he needed a whole protection squad of BOA people around him, and it's like I'm pretty sure the average viewer is like I'm not gonna get that. Like I'm just gonna show up at a base and I'm gonna get blown up or I'm gonna get chased down or something like that. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I mean, I'm glad you did though. But like Billy was saying, like remember when Angry Joe came and he was stuck in the warp gate for 2 hours? Like the game needs games in general need tug of war. Okay, you died to me 5 times, but you can go to a different base, or you can try a different route, or you kill me, and like it goes. I am on point, and you finally overwhelm me with 6 other players. I die, and then I come back down. I try to push you off. Like that tug of war. I like that interaction. Whether I win or I lose, or I get 10 kills, or I only get 3. I like the back and forth. I don't like the fights where it's just like I can't push forward because there's a max in there, and he has 2 engines on him and a medic. So if I do happen to kill him, he's going to come right back up. There's no progress. It's just a stalemate. And then I multiply that like by being stuck in the warp gate, like Angry Joe or Lyric or somebody like that. And I think about just the game just feels very jello-y, very sluggish, very like there's no movement. And I feel like that's so important. The battle flow is so important on both sides. And I feel like most of the time infantry players, especially aggressive ones, provide that. Like you play so aggressive that you're exposing yourself. So, because you want to get a lot of kills, but you're also overextending to get those kills to where you're probably going to die. And it's like, oh, well, I can kill Aeflic. I just killed him 7 times here. And it's like, damn, I'm getting farmed. The worst thing is when Recursion's like, you're being farmed and you died 6 times in a row. I like to look at the game as like, what's the best experience for everyone? Not just for me and like I'm an infantry player, but what's the best experience for everyone? Like I want Lyric to come and play the game because I want new people to come play. Like if AOD's not here, there's nothing. If the Zergfids aren't here, it's a 6v6 tournament every time I log in. I don't want that. I want AOD to stay around. I want new players to come. And it's just it's a tricky thing to get right. It's just no other game has touched this really on the level of Planetside, and for obvious reasons. It's not an easy, BRs work, let's make a BR. So I praise the devs for sticking with it for so long, because I do enjoy it. I do, but I want other people, new people, to enjoy it too. That's at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think overall, I think what made the take controversial and warranted conversation was the fact that there was a lot of stuff that you could argue is correct. Like again, no one deserves to be bullied because they're playing the game in a definition that's incorrect to the person who's bullying. But the opposite also is true in the sense of the person getting bullied probably isn't even going to leave the game. Because if I'm the one if I see myself as the winner and you're bullying me, I'm just like, look at this salty dude just like sending me tells. Let me screenshot this and upload it somewhere funny and like make fun of him. Where the real quitting comes from is the person who's just kind of getting abused by the fact that the domains aren't properly managed. And when I say properly managed, I just mean in the sense of those very weird situations where like, and we'll see one actually in one of the next clips when we talk about the Esamir PTS playtest, but where like a Bastion just shelling a spawn room and like you literally can't leave. And as a new player, you're like, you're just like, I just spawned in somewhere. I just got my gun. There's no attachments on it. I'm a light assault. I have a jetpack. Let me go fly out. Cause he's just a little baby, bro. A little BR1 baby spawning in. He doesn't know what's going on. Maybe you watched a YouTube video or two, but he doesn't have any certs to buy the gun that he thought was the coolest cosmetically. And I don't know, Rel's 3-year-old video. It's like, so he's just like spawning in and he's looking around. He's like, all right, I'm going to go. And he runs out and then boosh. And he's like, all right, I'll spawn in again. Goosh. And he just explodes every time. It's like after a while, it's either they play it and they figure out they get lucky, kind of I think how we were, because we all started the game as that bright-eyed, like I don't know what's going on person, but we all I think got lucky in the sense that we found something that kept us in. But a lot of people don't find that because all they get hit by is the things that push people away. So I think that the take itself is correct in half of its entirety, where again, like bullying someone for doing something to you because you're mad at the fact that they killed you with something that you don't think is honorable is bullshit. Like you can't use that as an excuse to bully them because they're playing the game wrong. But at the other end, it's like his analysis of what that leads to isn't correct in my opinion. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that kind of lead to why the player base has diminished to its level, and it's not because they got bullied for doing the wrong thing. It's because the people who are really good at doing the cheesy things just demolished like the majority of people who just don't know how to play the game, and then they just dipped out because they were getting low frames, they were getting farmed, they barely shot their gun, and they were dying over and over again. So it's like, I don't know.
I think the mindset from the infantry players is like these things need to be deleted. They don't. It's just if the domains interacted a little, if the base design was a little bit better, and there's places for these domains to interact, and even sometimes for all the domains interact in the way that they mostly do on live, which is kind of bad. I'm okay with it if it happens sometimes, but the fact is it happens all the time. And like if I'm air, I just go up into the sky. The only thing that can come up there is other air, right? And then, I mean, for the most part, to get to a tank that's at range on a spawn, I mean, you gotta go all the way over to him, and it becomes its own like little tank fight or domain fight, right? Vehicle fight. And infantry seems to lag behind in that atmosphere, and I wish we had more of that, not just some random base that has a cave or a tunnel entrance that we get to thank God is here. And usually those are so narrow anyway that they cause their own issues, which is why I think so many people go to Jaeger. Just to get away from it and have a fresh feeling. But anyway, I'll stop there unless James wants to chime in on anything else on that note. Otherwise, we can.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I was saying I think you've both covered it. Like,
Yeah.
More than well enough.
So I think Aeflic and I discussed it on our balance. It was like finding balance in the Force podcast. I think that was either 2 episodes or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, I think. But I'd love to get your take on it as well, James. We kind of found that. And this is the general opinion most of the time is the finding balance in the game should either be through map designs and making sure that tanks can't get to the wrong places or planes can't just take down anybody that's in any location. But then other people kind of see it as you need to remove these things from the games. It's more of a character level design type thing where it's like you need to restrict how much people can bring to a certain fight. Where do you fall in that? Do you think it's one side, the other, or do you think it's kind of a mixture of the two? What are your thoughts on that?
I would definitely say a mixture. I think both are very important. I think if there's broken things in the game, bad map design shows that up the most. I think if you've got issues in your game, you have like a Banshee wouldn't be overpowered if everything was indoors because it wouldn't shoot anything. But because there's so much opportunity for a Banshee to shoot everything, it feels really strong. So it's one of those like, I'm down for the Banshee being removed. I would prefer if like aircraft, for example, like Reavers, blah, 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 were limited to like engaging tanks and other aircraft mostly because they're meant to be like Empire specific fighters, not like leave the lib to like the bombing, blah 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 blah. But I also think that it's a case of like you don't have to remove it because that could be someone's enjoyment in this game, but you have to make it so that they can't just be dominant because the map is poorly designed as well. I think you have to give the opportunity for players that if a player thinks smartly about how they're playing, an infantry player for example, if they think smartly, they shouldn't be vulnerable to air to ground. Like they shouldn't be vulnerable to it just because the map allows it to happen. Air to ground should only be, you should basically get air to grounded once and then go, hey, I can't push that doorway ever again because I'll get air to grounded. I'm not going to do that again. Whereas it feels way more of the base designs are like, hey, so we got a spawn room and there's a 50-meter open field between you and the point room and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
Good luck. Basically, you have to get to that point or else you lose the space. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think both elements work, and I also think people shouldn't get too attached to things in this game in terms of like, hey, I used to farm with the, I mean, I didn't, but like as an example, like, hey, I used to farm with the beetle juice. If they removed it, you shouldn't be angry. Just find something else to use. Like, it's one of those like, don't get hooked up on what used to work. Like, just try finding something new. And also, I was saying this the other day, is they have plans to remove the biolabs on Esamir. So it's a case of like, sure, I thrive in a biolab as an infantry main player. You know, that's where I can farm up 200, 300, 400 kills per hour. But if I lose that, it's not a case of going like, oh, damn, they killed my kills per hour. It's like, hey, no, I just have to accept that my kills per hour that are good is now 130 or 140. You know, that's what I get in a good hour. Rather than getting hanging up on the fact that like it used to be better quotations, rather than looking at how the game is contextually now. So I think basically map design and weapon change, like, and individual balances on a character level are both pretty relevant in terms of balancing a game like this.
Agreed. Yeah.
Dude, can I say it?
Go ahead, bro.
Never done this. I think that's a great transition. I don't even have it pulled up. Can we transition to Esamir changes?
Yeah. Dang, Aeflic out here on production. Well, that's true. So last week, but for real though, that's a really good take, and I think Aeflic and I both agree. We did have a podcast episode about that, and you guys can check that out on YouTube. Just look up Aeflic Shoctor podcast. Also on Spotify now. We got all the RSS feeds set up, which is cool. You can listen to us instead of watching if you guys don't like I don't know, maybe destroying your data plans with your mobile carriers and you just want to listen to the audio.
2020, bro.
I don't know.
Wi-Fi
some people
everywhere.
don't. Hey, some people don't have unlimited data. Some people can't have Wi-Fi. Hey, I don't have Wi-Fi at my job, bro. So it's true. They're not allowed to have Wi-Fi there. But no, that was a good point. But good transition. You are right, Aeflic. That is Pog. You are slowly infiltrating the production side. Last week, I think it was last weekend, the Esamir PTS playtest happened. And there were 2 clips that are circulating. We are React Andy as fuck today, but
yeah.
it's cool to have something to visualize, and we're kind of increasing production when it comes to the podcast. But there were these 2 clips that Archie had on his stream while he was shoutcasting all the stuff that was going on. He was following around 1TR. You can hear like Captain Cox and other known 1TR members talking in the clips. But we just kind of want to watch this real quick and kind of give our initial takes on what we saw, and you know, what if there was something we liked, what we'll talk about, what we don't like. But we'll go into this first clip to kind of give the background on the clip. This
behind us,
this fight is outside of one of the specific bases. I think this looks like this is the rink, and you can see a lot of explosions, a lot of mech suits. I'll let you guys watch it, and then we'll kind of talk about it a little more.
This friendly bastion is actually like deliberately TKing. It's awful.
No, both Catgirl and PewDiePie are both attacking A point. They're not stopping bombarding on A.
No, they're not.
Yes.
Yeah, he's bombarding us.
And it looks like this is when we really need PewDiePie to start hitting the A point. This is when you really need to bombard.
About to message Ral and tell him to fucking destroy the map.
Unbelievable.
And tell him to destroy the map.
Developers, please take those bastions out.
We could max crash.
That is just funny.
Just like the good old days.
You don't have to yell. That is too funny. Unbelievable bastion bombardment coming in from both.
So that's the clip. You can kind of see a lot of things to kind of discuss, and I guess I'll kind of let Aeflic take the lead on this one. Actually, I feel like you have a lot of good insights on when you see fights like these, because you've dealt with so much as being a long-term veteran player that you can instantly see the mistakes that are popping up just from your own experience.
Well, you told me this. Will we see it in the clip? There's a bastion right next to the other bastion. Okay, whatever, fine. Well, I think I might be wrong. That's why I'm.
No, you're right. That was an NC bastion and a VS bastion. All shooting down on the point.
How many people benefit from a bastion?
That's a good point.
Like when I have my saw, I am essentially the only person getting those kills. Yes, my teammates might be able to push because I cleared a room. Okay, I'm not talking about that, but it feels like a one-person item. Okay, which is insane to think about. Yeah, but and a big outfit, it's very easy to get a Bastion. Okay, it's just the truth. I mean, somebody broke the numbers down on my stream one day. I was like, damn, you can pull them that quickly if you really wanted to grind for them, and you're not even a large outfit. I was like, damn, okay. And they may have changed that with some of the updates. I'm not sure, but it's just a lot of power for one person to have. And like, I look at that fight, even with the maxes there. I look at that fight, an open point. It's a mirror base, relatively, when you get to the point. And I look for like, like, okay, we're gonna push on the point. And we're gonna have this back and forth, and it's like, oh wait a minute, we have this just Bastions just shitting on this fight essentially, or two of them. And it's like I feel like it's one or two people, two people in the two Bastions essentially controlling that, not even fighting each other. I don't even know if they have the ability to really kill each other in just the Bastion with the Bastion weapons. I don't think they can
shoot at each other's hard points, but since they're flying at like basically the
Right.
same height, or I think one flies over the other depending on priority. One can really only shoot the top, where the other one can only shoot the bottom hard points.
So you can never kill it.
They can never fully kill each other without other vehicles coming into play as well.
It just that is like a pinnacle, like, not to me, and maybe the people on the ground are like, oh, that was so cool, but that doesn't seem like a pinnacle after a while. That even though that happened like 10 times in a row, at some point that becomes a little bit like, dude, come, like, and then at some point nobody leaves their side, right? It's just Bastion shells the A point. Whoever has A point is getting it. If you go out there, you die, so no one goes out there, and then the gameplay just becomes very stale. Of like, we peek from our side, shooting you across your side. You die, they res you, and like this, nothing happens. It just seems very. In that clip though, they do push across, I guess, but I don't know. It just feels like I don't know. It doesn't feel like good gameplay for one person to have that much power, and I don't know. It pains me because I do feel like some people enjoy that, and so like I want to be careful here, but it's cringy to me to look at in a lot of ways.
True.
And that's coming from running 11 squads back in the day, three platoons. Kawhi hates when I say it. I'm okay with Zergfits, okay? I'm okay with that, but like that domain does not interact well. When they're both both together like that, and they can't kill each other. It's just weird.
True. What were your like initial thoughts or your reactions to it, James?
That sucks for the infantry, basically. But I will say, like, just a thought of it is it was a play test, so
Very
there's
true.
less desire to go out and kill the other Bastion. It's one of those, like, there wasn't the usual like big groups. My personal opinions on Bastions is they should be more of an event, in terms of, for example, faction A, we'll call it NC, pulls a Bastion, right? That Bastion is on an hour timer. Basically, the way I ideally want it in my head, the way I've worked out that I think would be a good idea, is the Bastion is worth 200 certs to every NC player. If that Bastion survives that hour, every NC player is gifted 200 certs. To every TR and VS player, if that Bastion goes down, they're all gifted 100 certs. That gives everyone incentive to defend the Bastion and kill the Bastion, which is what Bastions were good at first, was incentivizing these massive air fights. That's when I learned to fly. That's when I had the most fun with flying, was these like, hey, I see a platoon of VS over there with their Bastion flying in their sides. I've got a platoon of my guys in Mozzies over here. There's a platoon of Reavers over there with their Bastion. We're all going to smash in the middle, and that's the most fun with the air fights. Whereas now it's a case of like, bro, one person gets the certs for killing the Bastion. You might get assist points. I can't even remember that much. But it's like one guy gets an insignificant amount of certs, basically, for killing the Bastion. And there's no incentive to go defend it, so there's no reason that anyone should go defend it, really, other than the guy who owns it wanting it to not die. And there's no reason to go kill it if you can just go to a different base that it's not at. Whereas if it had rewards, if it was like an alert, and every faction has a stake in that thing dying or living, I think that would incentivize players to play around the Bastions more, and it would hopefully either make, if you see a Bastion up in that scenario, if it's alive, it's because it's the guys protecting it are doing well. And if it's a case of like, you would look at it and go like, hey, that Bastion's up because it's being protected, or else like swarms of people would hopefully be trying to kill it. which would hopefully make it more of a case of like, hey, I've died to a Bastion. That's unfortunate. You know, I've been one-clicked basically from orbit. But it's like, I could be up there helping, you know, and I would be rewarded if I helped take it down. I mean, that would need like evolvement, because obviously it's a case of like, bro, what if you get the Bastion to 1 HP and then it disappears on like the 59th minute of 59 seconds and then all for naught? But like, just as like an initial concept of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of it, well, first off, the main of it is air, right? The trailer for it, bro. First off, I've said it many times, I love the way they do trailers for Planetside.
Yeah.
I think they're great. I get excited. I just do. But regardless of other people not, I love it as an air domain, like you're talking about. What the trailer showcases, what the test showcase when we tested it, because I remember testing it. I don't fly, but I thought it was actually kind of fun, and I can avoid it also if I don't want to go up there and fly. I can still play on the ground, right? I liked, I guess, the original design behind it, the idea behind it, which is kind of what you talked about, and then went a step further, adding to it essentially. I don't mind it in that case. I just don't. It just doesn't feel like it fits well when it's just shelling infantry from orbit. Shoctor?
This kind of goes back to kind of what we were talking about before when it comes to the interaction between the domains, because I agree with James's take about incentivizing destruction of a Bastion, because when there was an example of incentivizing destruction of a Bastion, and it worked out very well in my opinion, during, I think it was the second season of Outfit Wars, or maybe it was the third, I don't know how many seasons there was, but it was when DD12 was grinding to get Outfit Wars, and they were like in 3rd or 4th place. They kept falling out of that 3rd team bracket, and it was just like 12, 24 people playing. I think they averaged about 24 people playing. They had like 2 squads, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, capturing bases. And I remember having my squad be asked to pull air and destroy the Bastion. And me, I don't fly, bro. I was like, you can see my plane jittering a little. My pilot skills are low. They're like, Shoctor, your wings flying a little low. I'm like, I'm still new to this, bro. I just got my license. But I was like in that squad, and we went to destroy it, because not only was it messing with our ability to capture base and get those Outfit Wars points, but you also got points to your total Outfit Wars score if you destroyed the Bastion. And those Bastions didn't really stay up longer than maybe like 15, 20 minutes. And the biggest thing that a lot of people, I think, kind of respond to, or their biggest response to the argument that something is overpowered, is like, oh, you just need teamwork to overcome it. Because I agree. Like, I remember being in a DA Bastion. They did this thing where like every Friday they would let a member be able to like pilot the Bastions. So not only did it keep like the Bastions in circulation, but it also made it so that you were able to kind of use your Bastions and let other people feel involved in the outfit. It was cute. But this one night I played with them, they pulled a Bastion. One of their members was piloting it. I think it lasted about 10 minutes until Captain Cox brought his 1TR boys to just blow it to smithereens. And it instantly exploded. Like, they used hella good teamwork. They destroyed it. But this kind of goes back to that thing where it's like a brand new player just starting the game. Like, they don't really know like what an outfit is, what a platoon is. They're just spawning in, and there's nothing really showing them how to get to from point A of being alone to point B of being in a group and like having a clan of a team speak to go to, etc. So when you have those situations where it's the off night or it's late at night and someone's flying around in the Bastion, the outfit tag says N, and you're really scared because it's the notorious dudes who are just farming at night. It's like no one's gonna ban like a group of like 20, 30 people to all get like Mossies or Reavers or sights in there to
that's
blow it up.
true. Like late at night, I didn't think about
They literally just fly uncontested. And like, even if the thing is that's funny about it is it's like you don't need somebody piloting it to keep it in the air. Like, let's say you're flying a Galaxy, right? You can't like let it auto hover and then switch to another seat to blow up something with the gun. Like, if you switch out of the main seat of a Galaxy, it's just gonna fall into the ground. But with the Bastion, it's like it kind of just sits there. So they can just switch to any gun if it's like a 1 person or 2 people, and they can focus, okay, we need to do air to air because like 2 Mossies are trying to kill us. All right, we killed them. All right, go back to farming ground. And if you have this massive thing that has like 10,000 HP, it's going to take a while for like 2 dudes to keep chain pulling Mossies or whatever sort of air that they want to destroy it. So there has to be an incentive to destroy it, but then there also needs to be a way to limit when you can use it. Because if it is just able to run free in the middle of the night and it's just the chance that like some people are playing that night and they just don't really have much time to play other than like 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. It's like they're obviously going to quit the game just because I can't lock onto it with my Annihilator. Do you want me to pull a Colossus tank? That's not going to work because it'll just blow it up faster than I can blow it up. And then if I try to fly, I'll just blow up too.
Could you imagine you're new, you spawn in, you're playing a little bit, and you get that notification like Bax is pulled. You know, they have gained power on the server, and they have pulled their Bastion. You're like, oh shit, like what the fuck is that? Like Bastion, like that sounds like a cool event. Like maybe that's endgame. Then boom, you're dead. You're like, oh.
It just says Bax
That's what it
Aeflic,
is.
and it's this mass. It's not even a gun or a character. Like they're using just massive, just aircraft carrier, and they're like, oh shit.
Oh,
well,
okay.
damn.
Yeah. It's just something to think about, but I think we touched well on that. I mean,
Yeah, we can actually go into the next clip. So that clip was kind of just showcasing like how the new fights will probably look like since they're limiting the lattice lanes. I guess I didn't really preface that much, but they're limiting as the amount of options that there are to kind of cater to the smaller amount, I think, of players that are playing in the game and at the moment. So once that happens and you reduce the amount of options somebody has to go to, that'll just increase the number of people, assuming that the total number hasn't changed. Like if the number gets bigger, then obviously more people will be there. If this number gets smaller, then less people are going to be at fights. But the fact that they're reducing the amount of bases that you can go to initially once the continent unlocks will lead to more fights that might look like this. But this next, go ahead.
well, Chet's is right though. It is a sandbox game. That's why it's why the devs putting things into the game is so critical that it makes sense and it fits correctly, because it is up to the individuals and it's up to the communities to take what you're given and to blossom that. What does that turn into? Sometimes there's a Bastion late at night, farming players. That's bad. Construction. You would think people could put the walls together like this, right? In reality, it's like a 1-year-old trying to draw. It's very strange. And you don't know that when you place it into the game, right? How the community is going to take it. You have a vision as a dev, and then you have reality. And it's a scary thing to think about when you do add these things, because you just don't know how they're going to be taken. But anyway, go back to your point. Next clip. Let's roll it up.
So this next clip is now showcasing not only the new tech plant design, where you can see the 3 different points, but it also showcases the storm entering the vicinity and what it looks like when the storm is coming.
Oh,
2 points.
And
capture tank.
we can kind
I
of
feel
give
like
our
this needs
thoughts
to
on
be
it
6
as well.
again, personally.
Probably the same timer
6 minutes for
as
A, B, and
towers
C
have.
points.
Doesn't
Nah,
Amazons have a good
I
timer?
would say for 3 points, 4 minutes. Make it similar to the other 3
Yeah,
points.
so 6 points for 2, or I get.
No,
you know, I have
before
to
to
do
8.
8.
It'll be
Yeah, before to 8.
similar
Yeah,
to like
yeah.
Bash.
Yeah. That
I
makes
think
sense.
if
No one
puppies
caps Bastion
if puppies
anymore.
try to defend this base, I think they die to the storm before they get into the building.
No. You don't die to the storm. Storm only kills you if you get a lightning strike on you, and
Yeah.
Well,
traditionally.
yeah, but you
You're
can't.
outdoors.
But that charges up over time. You have to charge over the open. I'm saying puppies attack over the open field to get to the main base,
Right,
and they
where
die to light.
like an organized outfit might be using a router or dropping onto a
Or the
beacon on the
tunnels.
top, or the tunnels. Randos are just gonna run across the field and get nuked by a lightning strike.
Yeah.
Which is
you
a
know,
hazard.
for the only contested base when Esamir isn't open yet, is pretty bad.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Oh
the
yeah, I
Colossus
didn't even
is
think
still
about
bug.
it if it was minimal
how do you get,
lattice.
So that clip, we can see not only the storm coming in, but you can also kind of hear like the conversation going on amongst the platoon that's playtesting. The point that I think is the biggest point that's touched upon, and I agree with 1,000,000%, is the continent unlocks. It's in its unstable warp gate setting, where there's the 3 lanes and they're all going to the center base. So in Esamir, that's the tech plant. Hassan, it's Nason's Defiance, etc., etc. So the majority of the population ends up going to the tech plant because it's basically their only option. It's usually the most fun base to go to as well because there's a lot of different options to play as air, tanks, and infantry. So that ends up being the #1 spot where the majority of the pop is. Now you add the new thing that they're adding on top of it, where it's the storm now comes to wherever the most population is, and you have this situation where you're kind of fighting not only the people but the game as well that's trying to kill you with the storm entering the area. And the biggest argument that kind of brings up here is that pubbies who spawn in, let's say the NC has the control of the tech plant, so they're the ones who are spawning in and reacting to either the TR or the VS attacking. What ends up happening is the majority of the time a player will just W and shift across the field all the way to the double doors, and the first time they actually reach a rooftop will be when they hit double doors at the physical tech plant building. So with that in mind, they'll just keep getting electrocuted. So they need to find other routes to go. And this is also something that needs to get play tested, because here it looks like it's still kind of a ghost cap that's going on and they're waiting for more people to come. But even when you leave from the Crescent building and you run across, like, you're still out in the open and exposed to the storm. Is that enough time for it to kill you? Because if that's the case, then what ends up happening is your only viable option of getting into the base would be the underground tunnel system. And we know how it happens when you take the underground tunnel system and someone's completely set up in the biolab and you pop up from the vehicle bay and you instantly get destroyed by like 3 Sundays that are waiting for you there. So it kind of limits the amount of approaches you can have, just because the game is also fighting you. The game mechanic itself is fighting you while you're fighting other people. But I'd love to hear both of your takes. If you want to go ahead, James, and I don't know, let us know like what your thoughts are so far on whether it's the storm or there's the new way that the tech plant, it's a 6-minute cap with 3 points. One of the points is on the top floor right above where like that middle balcony is, and then the 2 are inside the building. But I'd love to just hear your initial take so far on that, and then how you see Esamir going, like the direction of it. Do you like what you're seeing? Are you a little worried? Do you think more testing is required, or is this ready for launch?
Firstly, just to like cover Esamir changes. I think a lot of people dislike Esamir currently. I mean, people might even like it, but everyone has opinions on how Esamir should be changed. So just change as a whole is good, in my opinion. You know, like, I'd rather they tried something than didn't try anything. I think you have to give the devs rope here, because, you know, a lot of people have a lot of opinions on what needs to be changed to make Esamir good, but every single one of those people has their opinions for their own reasons. You know, it's not, a lot of people are like, hey, I think you should remove walls because I'm a Hesh main. You know, it's like, so I think you can't expect the devs to get it right straight away. It has to be, you know, as long as the devs are willing to keep working on it and accept that maybe some things didn't work that they tried, and not hang up on the fact of like arguing with the community. And as long as they take criticism in, I think it's fine. I'm happy to see what they change. You know, I'm excited to see what comes about of it, because it's been stale for a while. You know, it's been the 3 biolabs and the tech plant in the middle. So I'm happy to see them mess around with more things. In terms of the tech plant, it's interesting. It could add some extra dynamics in terms of how you want to take it, because at the moment I feel like a lot of taking a tech plant is just really stacking as many people inside as you can, just above the double doors area. Whereas at least if we can try and just open that up to the fact that they have to also hold, you know, maybe this point that's in the middle, and there's 2 points. Is there a point at the bottom? Like, is there a point in the bottom of the tech plant?
Yeah, I think the A point remains in that where the point remains, but then I think there's a B point underneath, and then there's a C point above. And I'll need to confirm that.
Okay.
But
yeah, so C point is
a point on each like level.
C point in the unused area. The B point is where the tunnel is.
Yep. Okay.
There's that like the little slit right there, and the A point's actually above Dubs now. It's moved closer to Dubs. Yeah.
Cool. So honestly, I'm excited to see if it mixes up how tech plants are held. I'm happy to see shifts in how the game is played. In terms of the lightning and the storm being there, it's one that I'll have to play, and I'll have to play a few times. You know, like, I don't think just because I went there once and got zapped on my way to the building and it frustrated me, for example, I don't think that's how every experience of the storm being there is going to go. You know, I'm curious if it's a case of like, hey, running from Sundays isn't a good idea, so now we're going to go back to doing gal drops onto the balconies to get people in. You know, like, I know that the galaxies lose some flight ability, but that's kind of cool. You know, that's kind of cinematic. The galaxies going into the storm, they're losing control. They have to land or, like, you know, try drop their people off so that you can get people inside the building. You know, if it opens up new ways of playing the game, I'm down for it, because they can't make it like, I don't think it'll be horrible, you know. And as long as they're open to responding to the community, going like, hey, by the way, you get zapped a bit too quickly, you know, like, hey, there's no physical way I can get across. Like, I need to have a chance at least to make it, as long as I don't like stutter. I think it'll be fine. I think it's an interesting addition. You know, it's something new to the game.
I think something though that I think would need. I hate how squeaky that is. Something that I want to see though from the devs, if they want to go down this path of, making things more cinematic, and because I think a lot of the explanations that we have of like, the way you counter a lot of the things that were either in the game or players are doing in the game involves teamwork and cohesion, being in a squad, a platoon that's communicating. But I think there needs to be more efforts put in the game, and it could be as easy as like a survey of just like what do you like to do so far? Oh, I like tanks. It's like, okay, and are you playing the game casually, or do you feel really competitive, or do you feel like a hardcore player? It's like, oh, I feel like a casual tank player. It's like, oh, well, look at this. We have all these casual armor outfits that you could join. Try apply to one and read their stuff. Oh, and then they'll be able to read like, oh, this outfit requires TeamSpeak. This one requires Discord. This one's really casual. I'll join. I'll play in a platoon with them, and then more teamwork. It'll promote more teamwork. Because I think right now,
kind of have that with the Alpha browser a little bit.
The Alpha browser, kind of, but when you press like P or O or M or whatever you're looking for in order to, let's say you're just looking at the map, right? You're looking for when you want to spawn, and then you want to change your character. There are so many different like tabs underneath now of like the store, your character, your stats, and like as a new person, like it's overwhelming just because you're getting overwhelmed with choice of what you could potentially do. And I think outfits are like in the middle there, and it just says like join an outfit today, and it's like you're enlist now or whatever, but there's not a lot of like explanation when it comes to what you want to do or like what an outfit does. And it ends up almost being like that meme you were talking about where like we're just scrolling and shit because you're trying to like which outfit am I gonna read for the next like hour, or can I have something to help me filter it down to something that makes sense for me. So I agree. I think if the storm is an addition and it makes things more cinematic and cool, then that's a great idea. But the game needs more like opportunities for newer players to get involved in something that's cohesive enough to give them that experience of cinematic. Or else they'll just spawn on a Sunday that's in the middle of the storm, try to run into a building and just get electrocuted because they weren't in a platoon or they weren't in an outfit that was doing the gal drop to get to the tech plant in the first place. But Aeflic, what are your initial thoughts of kind of just like the new tech plant, the storm system, and Esamir as a whole?
I'm really working on my patience and not interrupting people. I feel like I'm doing better, by the way. If I'm not,
you're getting
correct
good.
Me. I'll just get so passionate, man. That's why I love the podcast. First, to touch back on what James was saying, just gets me excited for having more people here. Nobody's really been that positive / had that great of a take on it. Like this encourages old school gameplay of Galaxies, which I thought was really fun, but Rita Poiside came in and it just was a better. There's no point. It just took away the Galaxy to where it was kind of silly to use, and there were still chances and times that you could use that. But that's a great thought on it. I didn't even think about that. No one's really brought it up because everyone's just been shitting on it. What I am scared about though, and that's what I think Desert was talking about in chat. Usually there's a build up outside of grinders, okay? Double doors. Because the push in, you're going through, you have two options to go through, and they know you're coming through one of those two options. Very limited cover there, and there's so many people stacked up top there, and they usually everyone has a head glitch on you essentially, and they can get rezzed. Once you get in, to get res is difficult. So there's usually a build up and then a push. With the storm, it sounds like that build up is negated to the point where tunnels, like you were talking about, kind of becomes the only avenue, but it's not really an avenue because it's so farmable. And it does become like, how do you do this? But it is a triple point base, which leads me to to go back to the storm. I need to play with it. Okay, I haven't played at all. James is right. We need to experience it, and they need to be okay with tweaking it aggressively. They did that with the Firestorm implant, so I have hope. I don't care if they nerf the storm. I'm okay with that. You know, if it gets hit with a ban hammer, I'm okay with that. Or not ban, but a nerf hammer. Then we can kind of play with it again like they do with Firestorm. It just seems at this point like it's something that I'll have to avoid-ish, kind of like I already do with A2G or a Bastion or a tank. You know, once I learn it's there, okay, I need to go through the buildings now, okay? For a new player, that might be different. But in regards to the Esamir changes, I mean, I think, well, first off, Esamir is my favorite map. I've said it many times on my stream. A lot of people disagree, and I think it's their least favorite for some reason. I love the tech plant in the center. I think it creates natural, good, strong fights in the opening that really all three factions can partake in. I look at this as a way to test a new tech plant design, and it has to be tested. It just has to be. So I love it. It's new. We've always had the same tech plant, and I remember when they added the balcony doors onto tech plant. It used to be the generator up there, and the grinder doors. It used to be the game used to be actually way more challenging than it is now in some regards. There's a lot more better players now, but the base used to be even more staunch, and they've really opened things up. I'm excited to test a new tech plant. I'm excited to not have 3 biolabs soaking all the pop. You have instant spawn. People never leave. There has to be players out there that die at a biolab 50, 60, 70 times in a row.
Yeah.
I've seen a guy die 330 in an hour.
All to
330. He don't get me wrong, he was 4 KPM. He had 240 kills, but he'd managed to die 300 times basically in that hour. Insane.
It's a me. I've been one of those players. I've died a bunch in biolabs. I remember, I think Dubness is in chat. I think it was like 2 days ago or 3 days ago. He was like, he came by my chat after I like got killed by him like 3 or 4 times just because like I was just running around. I didn't really care, and I just kept getting dunked by him. So it's like biolabs are big meat grinders, but I think tech plants. The what's good about a tech plant is just the dynamic of all the different entry points, and there's exits, and the way the geometry or whatever you want to call it, all the different things that are put around, whether it's the gun or the walls or the doorways, all of it's put in a way that's cohesive. I think to infantry play almost reminds me of like how a paintball game would go, where it's like you're not just stuck to going straight, like you go left, right, forward, above, below. There's all these different things that you could do. But whereas a biolab, it's like you kind of spawn in and you have like, I can either go this way or that way, and if I go either way, I kind of die. The worst spawn is that one next to the L-shaped building in a biolab, which is usually the A point, I think, and you spawn there, and all you can do is go left. If you go right, there's spawn rooms right there, or it's like the Indar biolab where there's that massive wall. So it's like, I don't know. Do I even leave the spawn room here? What used to be the teleporter room now is like the secondary spawn room. It's a mess, whereas the tech plant does give you more options for approach. But I think overall the 3-point change is one that definitely needs to get tested. I agree with Dessert's take on the storm kind of screwing over people that build up that's outside of that double door area. Unless if there's like a little awning there to like kind of stop you from getting electrocuted, it's gonna be one of those like you can't post up there, so you have to run in. And if you do run in, it's gonna be like Normandy, where you're like getting shot at by all the machine guns above and the pillboxes where you can barely shoot back at them. So it's definitely a change that needs to get tested. I think the preliminary test was hopefully something that the devs walked away with a good result. Hopefully they learned a lot, especially from not only watching it, but hopefully they watched like Arshi's shoutcast of it as well. And I hope that they got something when it comes to the feedback of maybe we need to do a little more cosmetic or map design, to make sure that the storm doesn't overly affect some of these bases, or it's maybe we should just change how the storm interacts with gameplay in general. Because I remember last time we were talking about our initial thoughts on the storm, and we were like, maybe it's a good idea to just have it go wherever, rather than, okay, we're going to just take it to the biggest fights to try and discourage the fights there.
Okay, well, let me finish, bro.
Oh, go ahead, man. Sorry, I didn't know.
No, my whole point about Esamir though was the pop sinks on the biolabs. You have instant spawns, and I don't like that mindset of like, if I kill you in Crescent and you have the Crescent spawn in your light assault, you're right back there. And if I'm dealing with other people, there's no like, okay, I put James to rest. I know that motherfucker is gonna have to spawn and come back, and I have this buffer time to deal with other people. It's like you have to play at such a like it's just a different fight. But anyway, I don't like the pop sinks of biolabs, and they just soak up pop. And early in the morning, sometimes the biolab up north is only VSTR, and NC just ghost cap until they take so much territory. I've played before. It's been 5 hours. We just ghost cap. A fight here, a fight there, and the biolab just soaks the pop. I like this idea, this newness of Esamir. A lot of people were bitching at the bases being bad. These new ones. 1, they weren't done. 2, thank you for providing feedback. They need feedback. You guys got to go to the PTS and test them out and at Rel or post a YouTube video and discuss these things, or Twitch stream it. It's important for the feedback. But we got to understand these bases weren't done. There's a lot of shitty bases on Esamir right now. There's a lot of shitty bases on all the maps, okay? So if we get some new, really cool, fun bases to fight at, great. And we have some shitty bases that come out of it, yeah, okay, well, we're in the same boat. We just have new bases now, which is exciting to like develop like a meta around the base, because you know the base now. This is what you do. This is how you do it. The tech plant, it's like a triple amp station. We hated the idea. We thought it was gonna be stupid. Triple amp stations are 1,000 times better than single point. The gameplay is good there, a lot better. I like the idea of taking something and getting a hard spawn. I've talked about this before. I want to see a linear approach to it, where you take A, you have a hard spawn. Now we're fighting over B, and we're gonna that's like the next thing up, and the other team's there, and maybe they have a close spawn because they have B. We take B from them. Now we have that spawn, and now we can progress to C. This like stage of the fight, I like that idea. I'm also curious if you do something at a tech plant, like a triple tech plant. If I spawn at the tech plant, I start taking the tech plant, and I have like the A point, and it's a 1 to 12. I don't think I should have necessary access to B and C until the pop hits like a major pop. I don't even know how that would work, but I don't see A, B, and C working very well in a very small, because it becomes this rabbit hole type of thing. Larger fights, I think makes the fight scale better, to where you're not all just jumped up on the point, and it's like they have a router there. How do we even take this when there's 200 players fighting here? 3 points make it a little bit more spaces to pop out a little bit. It does need to be tested though, but it's fun because nobody plays where C point is. Nobody plays there. Nobody plays where B point is. You might get an infantry guy down there because he jumped down because he took too much damage. They're adding this massive base that has all this other surface area. They're adding play to areas that don't get really any. And it's kind of an interesting idea, as long as they can hone it and perfect it and turn it into something that could be good. So I'm excited for it. And this is a way to test new things. It's okay. If it sucks, it sucks. So we'll move on. But I don't think it's a bad idea. PTS is a bad place to test. It is. Not enough people test it. The environment's different. The people that are going there are not the people on live always. That mindset, that community on live. So bringing things to live like Outfit Wars, it sucked, but they had no choice but to bring it in its current form so they could perfect it or change it. And I see the same thing with Esamir. I'm more excited about this update than I've been about really probably any update in the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest update, honestly, in a while too. I mean, Bastion's brought a new way to see the game, but this is an actual augmentation in the largest augmentation of like a map that we're playing on. From new skybox to new mechanics with the storm to new base design to new lattice design. It's a really big update.
Well, map changes or new map. That's like the easiest thing to do. Not the easiest thing, but it's clean content. It's a map. New maps are just like, to me, is like the easiest, most reliable content to produce, and that the fact that we haven't got that much of it, and we get things like construction, we just don't know how it's going to work out. Doesn't make sense to me. Like, give us more maps and try out construction over here. Give us more maps, try out Outfit Wars. Give us more maps, try out this. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like that's just at the end of the day, that's what I want. I love the don't fuck with infantry. Don't fuck with the guns. I like how it is. You can add new guns, but don't change anything. Don't change the balance where it's at. I love it. Just give me new maps to fight at. New ways of like thinking, like, okay, how can we take this base? What's a new jump that James is gonna figure out that I can watch his stream and I can see? I'm like, oh, I can get up here, I can get on this flank. That's just exciting. I know this has been a long podcast. I will sit back. Next.
Oh well, yeah. So that does kind of, I guess that's a good place to conclude the summary of what's coming for Esamir and our initial reactions of what we're seeing from PTS. But now we get to go into Q&A. We have some great questions for James and for the three of us. First question is, what would you prefer, Outfit Wars but smaller, or something like PIL?
Ooh.
Say it one more time. Sorry.
What would you prefer, Outfit Wars but smaller, or something like PIL, a 6v6 tournament?
If you're ready, James, go for it. Otherwise, I'll go.
I would say PIL. Just because it's a bit more structured in the rules of what's allowed and what's not allowed. I personally think that as soon as you make it a three-way fight, which is obviously what a smaller Outfit Wars would be, it becomes harder because there's always the option of like, hey, we know that team over there is the stronger team, but if we play together, you know, in our smaller Outfit Wars, there's 12 of us versus 6, we'll do better because obviously they can't hold off. You know, it's like, I feel like a three-way fight opens up a lot more opportunities for salty feelings and like bad experiences compared to just a straight off like this is our team versus that team. There's nothing else influencing it. In terms of like qualifications, would it still be like a qualified 4 outfit wars, like how it was? And then it's, yeah, I think my opinion is just personally Pill. I prefer the Pill style of competitive play compared to how Outfit Wars does it, even if Outfit Wars was smaller to the scale that 6v6 is on.
Go ahead, Aeflic.
Honestly, it's a terrible question. It's a great question, but it's a terrible question because Outfit Wars it's not even, it's like, what's before beta? I don't even know. It's like not even in a form, but it's in such like a basic form that has gone to live that it appears like it's finished, but it's not. If they were to structure, the idea of Outfit Wars excites me. I don't want to do 1v1v1. That does not excite me. I want to have one outfit versus another outfit. I want to see, is DA better than Bax? Whether that's a 12v12, a 24v24, MLG style, combined arms, infantry only. I feel like it could be kind of cool to have different types of signups. That gets kind of a logistical nightmare. The idea of Outfit Wars is exciting. We talked about it on the podcast. The what was it? The 48v48 base map? Battle Islands. If you could do the idea of Battle Islands with Outfit Wars, you have these bases where the domains interact better, where infantry plays a pinnacle role in capping the bases, and then when you're traveling to the next base, okay, now air plays a more bigger role to intercept and slow down and harass. Same thing with tanks. I like that idea. Okay, I don't mind a combined arms. I just want it in a structured form where it's fun. And there's a little bit more strategy besides, okay, let's just pull a bunch of banshees and farm the infantry on the ground. So if Outfit Wars could become something like that, which I don't think is very difficult and actually simpler than what they're trying to do now, I think it would blow Pill out of the water. Pill's great. I love Pill. But I like the bigger plan. I do like bigger Planetside. I don't necessarily like it 400 players stuck into a triple building. But I like, okay, we're gonna hit this base over here. It's 50 players versus 50 players, or 48v48. It's not this, okay, we got 20 to 80. I just want a little bit of structure. Domains interact better, and I want to fight another outfit. That's all I want, more than anything. And I would bring Bax back.
You bring Bax back. I like how you said that. Personally, for me, I think it just depends on the scope of the question. Is this for viewership and trying to build up Planetside as like a competitive game, or is this something that it's trying to give more meaning to the game for everybody else that's playing, trying to get involved with playing the game? Because Outfit Wars has always been, I think, to me, seen as something that players were competing to get the opportunity to play on, and that they were like proving themselves on, but it's hard to watch because of all the different things going on. Pill, on the other hand, is something that it's more of a team thing. It's not, everybody on a certain team isn't necessarily like in the outfit and like representing their outfit. It's just a team of people playing in a competitive tournament, and it's way easier to watch and it's way more fun to watch. So in my opinion, when it comes to playing, I think Outfit Wars would be more fun in the sense of me wanting to get involved in something as a player, just in the sense of comparing it to something like Server Smash. Server Smash was super fun, just being like, oh, we got to do this, we got to win, have the most territory. But PIL is way better to watch as a viewer. So I would say, I wouldn't want one to replace the other. It would just be an overarching, like, this is what some people play, this is what other people watch. It wouldn't be like the end all be all type thing. It's hard to compare the two.
I agree. It is hard. Fair point. Both would be good if Outfit Wars could become what I want it to become. But whatever.
Next question. Who the best shooter out of the three of you?
Wow, what a stacked question.
I'm lucky. I'm bad. I can just sit back here. Who the best shooter? Like, who's the best player? I can just chill. I already know I ain't good, but I'll leave my personal opinion. I guess I can only be the one to answer this, because you guys could be biased or be trying to act.
What do you mean by shooter, though? Are you saying all aspects? Are you talking movement meta? Are you talking accuracy?
See, now he's trying to find something to win at. He's trying.
Bro, Aeflic's definitely been better longer than I've been. Like, that's for sure. Like, without a doubt, Aeflic has been a better player.
I think
live
play, you're better, Aeflic, but 6v6 like scrimmages, I think James is better.
But have we ever played where you're the carry, I'm the carry?
What do you
Like
mean?
my thing is, I think like if I were to play on BHOT's team, for instance, like if I had 5 other carries, for instance, it's just like we don't know.
All right, well,
Ultimately,
we'll have a
Shoctor,
1v1 scheduled.
ultimately, though, Shoctor is correct. In that scenario, you are better. It's not in a vacuum, I guess, or a perfect scenario. You're great at the game, and that's just the fact. I can do my thing on live, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just farming players here or there, or the fight has to be good, and sometimes it's advantageous to one player and it's not advantageous to another. But I mean, James is amazing. We'll leave it at that. And at Shoctor's point, though, technically you are better, given up with what we have right now. That's just the truth. I'll fold. I mean, sure, I could say like, oh, we've never like really gone head to head by ourselves, but the facts are the facts right now. You're better. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think with James's like just constantly playing in like a PIL sort of format, and then also your background and like competitive games that are almost similar in the sense of it's a small controlled environment and like a certain size of a map. I think you come with a background that would lead to you becoming more successful, because you could feed from experiences you've had from like a CSGO and Overwatch, etc., to make yourself better at 6v6. But Aeflic, I think, is better at live just because he has more experience of just playing nonstop since like 2012. So it's one of those things.
That's a bitch of a question.
It's hard, bro. Whoever sent it, I was like, I gotta ask, bro.
I think we broke that down. That was good. And James is a monster, bro.
Bro, like, to caveat that, right? I can only guess like what sort of hours you guys have, but I have 16,000 hours in FPS games.
Damn, son.
I think
I got like 4.
Yeah, it's one of those like I've been playing like probably 2,000 hours of FPS games since I was 8 or so. Like I grinded to like prestige 10 on all the Call of Duties when I was young, and then I started playing PC games. Like it's one of those like, you can't really compare it because it's just that much more time play. Like that's all I say. It's like it's experience.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
So the next 3 questions are actually from Dubness. So first question is at James. As someone who ran a structured team, asking someone who didn't, do you think the top echelons have no need for structure, and that it is a way for lower tier teams to punch above their weight?
I'd say so. I think experience and ability beat structure, in my opinion. I think we didn't need to call what we were doing. Like we went into nearly all of our matches not really knowing how the other team was really going to play. And it's just like on the fly going like, hey, and it doesn't even need to be said. But everyone picks up, once you've reached a level of experience, everyone picks up like, hey, by the way, they do this every time. Like we're not saying like, hey, by the way, they're going to push that. It's just everyone knows like, hey, hold a position that's going to farm the hell out of those people when they push in that way. I think, structure can help, but structure only helps as much as you're able to control the game in your own way. Like, for example, when we played B-Way, I don't think B-Way was allowed to get structure in our matches against us, which suddenly leaves you quite vulnerable. If your entire playstyle is built around structure, is what I would say. Like, it's a case of like, if you're caught off of your footing, and you can't play the way you want to play, you're obviously going to play worse. Whereas if you don't have a set structure way to play, you're pretty free flowing. It's just we're more a mentality. Like if everyone's happy, we'll do fine. It's yeah, that's my opinion on that. Is structure's not bad. I think you just need to, well, not you, but like it's just worth considering that like what happens when you're not allowed your structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big thing on like adaptability. But next question he had is, what do you see the future of competitive Planetside being? This is for everyone, i.e. will there be a return of 12v12, etc.? Personally, I think competitive Planetside should be something that makes more sense to live. And I think the easiest way to get to that is making leaderboard sort of competition of like daily kills, weekly kills, all-time kills, stuff like that, more in the forefront of the things that you're paying attention to. Because like I had a crazy session last night where I got 270 kills in 59 minutes. My best session ever was like a 4 point something KPM, and I popped off. And like the only reason I saw that was because someone in my chat like sent me a screenshot of Fisu. But like if that was something that like was shown to like the masses of like, this is the daily leaderboard for the past hour, and like Shoctor's #1 or James is #1, Aeflic's #1, I think that would increase the competition of live play. But when it comes to competitive Planetside off of live, I don't really like. I hate to say it, but I'm like sort of becoming more and more like not really caring as much of like PIL and lane smash and all that stuff when it comes to at least playing in them. Like I'll view them and just kind of lurk in the channels and watch, but like I'm not super interested in like, you know, leading a team or anything like that, just because, you know, there's no money, there's no cosmetic reward, there's really just like semi prestige to it. But I'd like to hear your guys' take too of like, what do you guys think? Is there a new mode coming? Do you guys think 6v6 is the end all be all? What do you guys think?
I mean, how many times have you scrimmed a 7v7 or a 9v9 and it just feels clustered? Especially like 9v9, and that's not even that many players compared to live, right, at a base. I think for a 12v12 or even to scale competitive Planetside into something larger with combined arms and everything available, this is probably super cringy. We talked about on the podcast before. Almost that CSGO style of like, everyone starts as infantry with meager weapons or resources. It's like, okay, you want the Gauss Aeflic, like you're gonna have to pay this many resources. You get resources by taking bases, by getting kills, by resing people, etc. You don't just get 4 resonates off the start. You can't just pull 7 banshees off the start for this outfit war. You get these things as you progress through the match, and it's like, okay, first banshee's coming up. Boom, we're gonna like Aeflic, pull your Banshee. And that's a terrible example of someone to pull a Banshee. I don't know, Frog, pull your Banshee. You know, we're gonna send you over here. These guys need the help the most, but you have 1 Banshee. It goes down, you don't have your asset anymore. I think that's the only way to do it. Otherwise, it becomes. Look at ML. It just becomes too. I don't know. It just becomes too much almost to manage in its current form because everything is available right away. StarCraft, if you had like, you just can't have everything. You can't have the best things available off the go. You can have max resources and everything just ready to fucking roll out. It just becomes too much of a clusterfuck. And I'm curious how the game would play out if it would require too much, I think, for the devs to do, but I would be interested if things became more assets and grenades and medkits became a little bit more scarce. And you take the core Planetside, which is infantry gameplay. At any given time on live, the majority of players are infantry. And you built off of that and built up. I'm curious what the game would be. I'm actually very curious what the game would be. That's my take. I think that's the only way to do competitive Planetside outside of something like PIL.
True. What are your thoughts, James?
Ooh. I'm not super duper sure. I don't think I have like a major opinion on this. It's a case of like, I'm happy for them to try and integrate, you know, competitive into Planetside more, you know, like, you know, with how they're doing outfit wars and stuff, you know, like, I'm happy that they're trying to integrate some level of competitiveness into the game. I don't think, though, in my opinion, that they should kill what the core of the game is to try and facilitate that. I think, you know, there's a lot of other competitive shooters you can go play. There's a lot. Like, and Planetside's uniqueness is in that grand scale, you know, it's the only game that does it. So I feel like rather than forcing itself into the competitive genre in the way that other games are competitive, I'm open for them trying, you know, like trying to mess around with the grand scale that they have in this game. I don't think that competitive on like a, you know, massive player scale is great in terms of like trying to organize 150 people turning up for a match is nightmarish, you know, like that's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying like, I don't mind if they have access to vehicles, etc. in it, but I kind of like Aeflic's idea on like you're given a certain amount of like use out of your vehicles or something. You can't just like always pull a new vehicle, or you know, I don't have like an answer for it, to be perfectly honest. It's more just like a rambling thought of like, I'm happy to see them try something, you know, and mess around with things, but I think they should try and stay true to what their game is and leave like the more niche competitive stuff to Jaeger. I think like keep You know, keep Jaeger going. Allow people to play their 6v6, their 12v12s, their lane smashes, blah blah blah. And if they want to try something, try and stay true to what their game is.
Agreed. I think that kind of does kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, you know, it is what it is. Like, we can't, trying to force the game into something that it isn't is going to be detrimental to the game. So rather than constantly trying to get the devs to do something that will make it like a 6v6 game or something like that, will likely lead to something detrimental in like the game as what it is right now. And you brought up a really good point of, you know, there are many other shooters to go to that could, you know, cater to something that makes more sense to the, you know, the type of gameplay that you enjoy. So rather than, you know, constantly being angry and feeling like you're smashing your head, or like the dono wall emote where it's like a dude talking to a brick wall, it's like, instead of feeling like that, you could go to a game that matches the game style that you want to play. But you know, we've been live for a long now, so we'll do 2 more questions just because I want to be respectful of James's time. It's really late and he's not in the U.S. So
Bro, I'm not employed.
I just want to be respectful for your time because it's been about like 3.5 hours now. So we'll do 2 more questions and then we'll call it a night. It's been a really good podcast. I think we talked about a lot of great stuff so far. So, everyone, thoughts on the new Esamir changes, specifically how they will affect Jaeger's competitive Planetside side. Or I said side twice, but such as PIL maps and lane smash lanes.
Yeah, like anything, man. New Call of Duty comes out, or a new game, if something comes out, you just run with it and you just come up with the new maps, or new lane smash maps, or new pill maps. Everyone, stale cannon, that's what they say, right? So let's get it out of the pool. I love pale cannon, but it's not like every pill map is being affected. How many are even on Esamir?
There's 3. There's only one pill map, and there's 3 6v6 maps off the top of my head.
Okay. I think a lot of the 6v6 maps do kind of go away though. I don't think like there's like the southern one next to that.
Light barracks is at the bottom.
Yeah, so I think
and then you have Prime in the middle. Yeah.
But there are new bases, so there's a chance for new.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe those new biolabs will be like really good for like a 12v12.
Maybe we'll end up with like 5 bases coming out of this, 5 new bases that are worth scrimming on. You know, it's like one of those.
Be better, yeah.
Optimistic, not pessimistic on it. You know.
I think the biggest worry probably is the lane smash crowd of Planetside, where, you know, the lanes are now kind of becoming more, I guess, like simplified. It's harder to. And the way the lanes are kind of stretched out, there's not as many bases anymore. So you either have to make the lanes a little bit weirder with a curve, and a lot of the bases now as well are 3-point bases, where right outside of the tech plant you have Watterson's, Cerro, and Matherson's like right outside of it. So trying to figure out like, okay, how much do we want like 3 bases in a lane smash? It ends up being kind of difficult. So I can see where the where the lane smash argument kind of falls in, because that does kind of mess with the current thing, and it's way more complicated trying to set up lane smash than it is PIL. PIL is just one base, 6v6. You know, there's adaptability there, and even if it turns Esamir to complete worst case scenario where PIL is no longer like usable for PIL, there's still every other map on Indar and Hassan. But I do kind of feel a little bit more bummed out for the lane smash crowd. So last question that we'll go over is, why is building new player experience so hard in this game? Is that the veterans' fault? ?
No. The hand of new players isn't held very well in this game. You're thrown in, unless you go to Twitch or watch YouTube videos, or you have someone that's already experienced in the game. There's very little leading a new player to learn what they need to be doing, how they need to be doing it, other than just playing the game for an excessive amount of time. There's no comprehensive tutorial anymore. And to be fair, the one that existed before wasn't great. There's very little explaining what your objective in the game should be. You know, why should I cap this base? Why should I go to this base instead of that base? Why should I spend my certs in the way I do? So I would argue that it's not the veterans' fault. The veterans can help. You know, it's completely... I mean, the veterans can help only as much as the new people ask for help. If new people send me a message, you know, say I kill them and they go like, hey, how did you kill me, blah blah blah. I'll explain to them, you know, like, hey, I aim for the head, blah blah blah. I shot in 3-round bursts. But you can only do that much as they're willing to get response from like a player. If the game isn't going to teach them what to do, they can only get as much out of it as they want to do, as they want to get. So I wouldn't argue that it's the veterans' fault.
I'll take a different approach to it, kind of. You know, I used to think the new player experience was really bad on Planetside, because that's the only thing I played, right? Then I went to Tarkov, and even though I had friends that had been playing Tarkov for a long time, and they told me everything I needed to know, there is no Planetside I die, I lose my gold anchor. I imagine buying Tarkov, having no friends playing it. I don't watch Twitch or YouTube. I get into it. It's brutal new player experience. The most brutal I think I've ever experienced. Most people know left click shoots, right click zooms you in, C crouches you, spacebar jumps you. What you don't know is that the Sunder gives you spawn, or if you hit B, that's how you deploy it. But that can come later, and you don't need that necessarily to play the game right away. I do think it does need some tutorial. It does rely on YouTube or outfits and people kind of explaining things. But some of the fun of a new game is just exploring it. That is part of the new player experience, and that's what makes people stick around. Is because it's this thing you just don't know about. Like, wait, there's a command chat, and nobody knows when you first join that command chat is just people saying bad words and yelling at each other. It seems, if you, as a boy, I played Army all the time, right? And like that idea of it is just like kind of a cool, like, takes me back to my childhood. Like, there's a command structure. There's 1,000 people on this map. Like, wait, there's people coordinating. There's outfits that specialize in this, and like there's multiple platoons. And like I'm in this platoon, but I know that my platoon leader is talking to another platoon leader. Like that's just crazy. And like some of that is like fun to just kind of explore on its own. But at the end of the day, it's FPS. You know how to play FPSs, unless you're 4 years old. And YouTube and Twitch are here. That is part of the new player experience in most games, and I think devs in general rely on that to some degree, because it's so, especially in Planetside 2, there's so many resources that can go into new player experience, and it's very hard to get right. And now, am I going through new player experience for a week, 7 days, because Planetside is that comprehensive? No, I know how to shoot, I know how to crouch, I know how to jump, I know how to access me a terminal or a vehicle, just like in any other game. It's pretty straightforward at the end of the day, and other games that you have to pay for and are newer are way worse and way more brutal, and I didn't realize that until I went to them. So, and vets help, but they also, as we saw, Spiffy and Brit, they also take away. There's good and evil, just like in life. Like there's good players that help, B-Way helping, the streamer, and then there's players that are going to stream snipe and like try to make it a shit experience for Angry Joe and keep them in the warp gate. It is what it is, and it's been like that for forever.
Yeah, I think overall the new player experience is lackluster just due to the amount of new things that are in the game and the complexity of the game. But I don't think people being good at a game are the reason why it dies. It's usually the difficulty of getting almost like getting your feet on the ground and feeling like you're making progress in a game, and feeling like you have direction, purpose while you're doing something. Giving yourself goals is what ends up having people leave. And I think all the way back to like playing like Modern Warfare 2, or playing even before that, playing like Super Mario Sunshine on like the GameCube. It's like there was always a goal or an objective that made me want to go through all of like the rough parts of the game where it gets hard, or where I feel like I'm not doing as well, so that I could get to the end goal of either beating the game and saving the princess, or getting to 10th prestige and feeling like I like mastered the game. Planetside kind of lacks showing what that is, or showing what it could potentially be. And there's a lot of outlets that a person can have when they start up the game, whether it's directives or construction or etc., that you kind of get lost in the sauce, I guess. And as a new player, it's almost like the TED Talk that I remember like watching in my organizational behavior class when I was in college still. It's like this thing where it's like you go to a grocery store, there's a million different brands of like tomato sauce, and at the end of the day, you just walk away with no tomato sauce because there was so many things to choose from. No one told you which one was good, which one was bad. You just didn't want to take the risk, and you left. And I think the same thing kind of happens with Planetside. They get all these options, they don't know what to choose from, and then at the end of the day, just like, you know what, I'm gonna go play Fortnite or something because it's easy. I just grind the battle pass, get to level 100, and I get the cool skin, and that's GG. Or same thing with Call of Duty.
But that mindset is so like, it's almost like so short. Like these other games are almost so short. It's just like, because you already know everything about it. COD has been here for 400,000 years. There's 400 titles, and you just wait for the next one to come out. Everything's the same. Maybe there's a jetpack, that one sucked, whatever. And like the progression is just so, to me, is so limiting. The uncovering what's there is so limiting that I either won't buy it, or I won't play it very long, or I won't bother, right? Something like Tarkov was so new and exciting and different, and uncovering things was part of the fun, and not knowing made it, to me, and it could be different, but that part of it was what made it so good. But Planetside to me is like something that you can play. This is why I keep coming back. I feel like that's why James keeps coming back. Like and we're at, I guess, the other end of it. I feel like the end game of it, like for us, is infantry elite, whatever. But as a new player, there's so much progression that you can go through to get to that stage, or you can shortcut and get there. You can go to mid-fit. Like there's just different avenues that it creates so much more. That's why we have so many hours in it. Over like a Call of Duty game or like Battlefield 4, it's just like, oh, we're fighting over the A point over and over again. Okay, like it just, I don't know, just there's no substance there sometimes, which is why also Planetside has ruined, as you talked about earlier, Shoctor, so many other games. That's my viewpoint on it.
True.
It's not shallow. It is shallow. It's casual, but
I think the way you're looking at it just kind of showcases the kind of gamer that you are, though.
True.
Because you're way more of a hardcore, like, if the game doesn't give me 1,000 hours, then I'm not gonna buy it type of gamer. Whereas I think there are more people who see it really casually. Like, I've purchased a Call of Duties before just for their campaigns, where I spent $60 and I played it for 4 hours, beat the campaign, and I thought it was cool. Because I look at it almost like a movie too, where it's like, I mean, you're paying like $14 to go see a movie on like a Saturday night, and it's like an hour and a half long. It's like, same thing, just multiply that by like 5-6 hours. As long as the game, and I think equating something to the amount of time you've played it is not the right way to quantify how much enjoyment you got from something. And quantifying it based on how much you intrinsically enjoyed it, just like how much the things tickled your fancy and how much everything made you just go whoa. Because I've played 60 hours of a shit game, and I've played 10 hours of like a really good game, and it's like I'd rather pay the $60 for the 10 hours of fun than the 60 hours of bullshit. So I don't know, that's just kind of like, I guess, a side thing. But overall, I think that is the end of the podcast. James, as our first guest, this was I think really great for us. I think this is my favorite podcast we've done so far, and that probably shows why we went so long as well. But
same.
Really do appreciate your time, and I'd like to give you the opportunity to shout out your channel. I'm gonna throw your Twitch link in the chat as well, but feel free to shout yourself out. Give you anything you want to plug. Go ahead. This is your opportunity.
Nah, the only one is you'll catch me streaming on OBTTV. If you have questions or want to ask like how to improve, I'm there. You can also catch me on the Planetside Discord. I'm an infantry mentor, so I can answer questions there as well. And if you need to message me, just message me on Discord. I'm in most of the Planetside big Discord, so the Pill one, the Jaeger one, etc. Other than that, we're popping. It's good.
Awesome, bro. And I just spammed your link in chat. Don't forget to give this man's a follow. What's up, Aeflic? You good, bro?
No, I just said eat. No, man, this is my favorite podcast. I agree.
Like I said before, give the YouTube a little follow.
Oh yeah.
A little subscribe on the YouTube. Just it's youtube.com/.
It's free. It's free. It's not like subbing here, bro. It's free.
Yeah.
Subbing on YouTube is free.
And then don't forget to give Aeflic a follow if you don't already give him a follow. His link or his YouTube Twitch name is below him. If you haven't followed this channel as well, feel free to give that a follow. But really do appreciate you guys sticking around for the 3 hours and 41-minute podcast. We went in, we analyzed, we discussed, and until the next one, we'll talk to you guys soon.